All right, and we are live. Hello.
Hello.
Guten Tag.
So welcome to another Y.A.R.P studies, as this is now being called. It's been quite a bit, hasn't it, Ninja, since we did one of these.
It has been time.
So today we would decide to talk about the big three. Now, Ninja, what do you think are the big three? Not what do you think? What are the big three?
So the big three are three, unfortunately, fairly common writing. We'll call them writing devices that can very quickly derail your story and either destroy your characters, your universe, or both. And these would specifically be time travel, multiverse, and resurrection. Not in any particular order, but all three of them are things to be avoided, especially if you are, fairly new to writing and you're still kind of trying to establish your skills and find your feet. It's just a way that you can very quickly take a lot of hard work, countless hours creating these characters in this world, and just absolutely flush it all down the drain. These writing devices are commonly used as like a crutch by inexperienced writers, or maybe they're writers who feel like they've kind of written themselves into a hole and they don't know how to get out. So they just throw one of these things at the wall and see if it sticks. And they are horrible. Let's start with we'll just go down the list. Let's start with time travel.
All right.
How do we feel about time travel? What is your experience, Wyatt and
So
River, with time travel?
so my so there's only two movies that I like, that either one of them where the time travel is actually like their thing, 'cause it's a time travel movie, and then one of them only has time travel as like sort of the inciting incident. I love Back to the Future, just Back to the Future 1, and I love Terminator. But Terminator is that example that I was just saying, it's more the inciting incident, so it doesn't really count. I like Back to the Future. Back to the Future, it's got some tismy moments, especially with the ending. He realizes, like, oh yeah, I've got a time machine. I have all the time in the world. But then he only proceeds to go half an hour back in time before Doc was originally shot. When it's like, no, you could have gone like a full day or a full week. You had all the time in the world to then tell him. Um,
Yeah, I would agree with that. I know it's a hot take. I'm not a big fan of the Back to the Future movies. They're not my cup of tea, so I've only seen them a handful of times. I know the first one is pretty good. The other two are just kind of okay at best. Um, but I know there are a lot of people who really enjoy that series. Um, I would probably say we were talking about this a little bit in the kind of pre-show, but my two probably favorite examples of time travel would be, I like Idiocracy, even though it's not a traditional time travel movie. It is kind of a time jump forward, and I really like the ending, the sort of time loop of Doctor Strange one. I think that's really well done.
yeah, and it was interesting when because we were just looking up a list of time travel movies, and Idiocracy uh was on that list, and we had that whole conversation, like, does it count? Because technically, like, it is somebody being suspended, like, does that count as time travel, or is that just time passing? But the difference being is that he's frozen, as opposed to he just lives his life. Correct? Or hold on, did I am I lagging out, or
No, we can hear you.
Oh, I just realized Ninja was muted. So, I think, Sarah, you've never seen Back to the Future, have you?
Of course I have. No, I have. It's been a while, but I've seen them.
What do you think of them?
In general, um, I mean, I enjoy them, and I don't really know what else to say about it. They they're fun movies. I
So,
know, not much to say.
um, so the reason we kind of have a big problem with time travel is it is used mainly as an unhealthy crutch. One of the examples that we brought up would be Endgame. In Endgame, that's how they get all the stones back so that they could reverse what Thanos did. The problem being is how they phrase it, because they say this isn't like proper time travel, or um and why you can't just do a separate thing, yet separate things happen all the time, such as the fact that a Thanos from 2014, like the Thanos from Guardians 1, is transported in a like 2020, 2021, or 2025, depending on the timeline of the Marvel Universe. Not the point. It's just transported to current time, and that doesn't fuck with anything. Or how Steve goes back in time to return all the stones, but then just hangs out in the past with Peggy. When it's like, so he's just back there not doing anything, he's just having his dance, and meanwhile his best friend is killing people. Because let's not forget, while he goes back in time to hang out with Peggy, Bucky is still the Winter Soldier in that time period. So Bucky kills Howard Stark.
Well, that's the problem is you can't think about it.
Yeah,
It's the scene is shot and portrayed as being very sweet, and it's like, oh, Cap finally got his happy ending. But it's like, God help you if you start thinking about it, even for just a minute or two. It's like, holy shit, the implications here are really horrible.
yeah, and
Yeah, like, does his going back in time change the course of events?
supposedly no, somehow.
Supposedly, no, but according to their own rules that they've laid out, it would have to.
Right.
And that's kind of the problem is they act like nothing bad happens because of it, but they specifically mention that he's not in like a different branching timeline. He's in the same timeline.
Yeah, there's a version of him that's just still frozen in the ice.
I guess. I don't know. It's weird. Like there's essentially two Caps in the same timeline now because if it's the same timeline, then did he just hang out with Peggy until he went in the ice and then out of the ice back to it's like no. So he basically changed everything but essentially changed nothing at the same time. It doesn't make any fucking
Yeah, and people
Yeah.
love
Yeah, that's
and
weird.
and people love to headcanon as I don't remember if you guys remember this from Winter Soldier, is that Peggy married somebody, and then during her little videotape it said that Cap saved him. It's like, oh, that was Cap was just her husband. When it's like, I'm sorry, that was Captain fucking America, one of the most recognizable people in history. Guy ended World War
yeah,
II in their
no.
universe.
They just wanted to have their, you know, sappy emotional payoff moment, but they weren't willing to put in the work to earn it or deal with the consequences of doing it. Like you could have it either way. Either it needs to be properly set up, in which case it's like, yeah, okay, that works. Or you say, well, Steve decided he wanted his happy ending no matter what, and it's like that's fine, but there are going to be ripple effects because of that decision. But
Yeah,
they were just like, no, he's just gone. This is his happy send off. Bye.
Yeah, implications such as the idea that he knows Bucky is murdering the shit out of people. and and then also insert
I mean, he
bad
knows
building
about
day
Pearl
joke.
Harbor. Yeah, all those horrible events. It's like he knows about the Columbine shooting. He knows, it's like, come on, he knows about everything.
Right.
And now he's just going to go back and pretend that none of that stuff is going to happen. It's like, that's not the Captain America I fuck.
Yeah, there's no way Steve would just sit by and let all these disasters happen. Uh and something that's really unclear, I don't know, I thought it was unclear in Endgame if their version of time travel was also multiverse shit. Because I thought with the way the Ancient One was explaining it, I straight up thought we were when things were getting changed, that's when we were getting a multiverse effect. But
Well,
then,
it's weird because they have the Ancient One explain it, but then they don't actually follow their own explanation. What's up, buddy?
The kiwi no it cannot net to the internet.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll have to come take a look at it, huh?
yeah, I can continue on while you go.
Yeah,
fix
I'll
that.
give me a minute.
So, I think what he was going for with is when they were explaining their time travel, they were explaining why you can't change a certain event, and in this joke, they were doing it with comedy. Like Don Cheadle was like, "Why don't we just kill Baby Thanos?" And Hulk was going, "Then if you do that, then your past self, then your future self can't go back to do the thing your past self does," and creates like a whole thing. But then that's when we get like the whole two nebulas and the just it doesn't follow through with any of it. And then oh my god, then that's when of course the big massive like rabbit hole that is the MCU, because then the TVA are that whole thing with the sacred timeline. I don't know if you watched Loki, Sarah. It's a fucking mess.
I watched like the first episode or most of the first episode, and yeah.
So the whole thing of if you deviated from the sacred timeline, you get melted and the
Right.
timeline just gets reset. When it's the idea that whether it be the major decisions or something as simple as somebody who was supposed to order a latte ordered a cappuccino, when it's just like, all right, that decision, like it's the implication behind it because they were just doing it as a joke. When it's like the implication is that shouldn't matter. Something like that should not be like what deviates an entire timeline. Then the whole like variant that Sylvie is hanging out in apocalypses, so they go to Pompeii, and apparently there's no residual timeline changes when they're just fucking around in Pompeii, which is really weird because you of course would know everybody was frozen in place. So if you pushed somebody, that they're not in that spot anymore. It's just not
Right. Sorry.
That's why of all things, Loki was probably the most damaging to the MCU, because that was the big like multiverse and time travel fuck up, because I think they even mention in Loki like, oh, you should be punishing the Avengers because they were doing something similar, when it's like, no, this was part of the sacred timeline. It's like, what the fuck? The MCU is just a hot pile of garbage, people. Anyone who doesn't think so is absolutely insane. And that kind of that's why another reason we brought this up was because when Ninja gets back, he saw everything everywhere all the time, which has been compared to
Everywhere all at once.
yeah, it's been compared to Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which while I haven't seen, I've had it spoiled to me, and it's not good. It's- I think it was an episode of Y.A.R.P Gaming. We were talking about uh, just why bring in all these legacy characters and like fan cameos just to murder the shit out of them in like in not even in not nice ways, but you you've literally brought them in just to kill them and not be significant deaths. You made them idiots too. You made Reed Richards the smartest man in the multiverse from you made him a fucking idiot that reveals a person's weakness.
Yeah, they just wanted to get John Krasinski in there, which was an interesting choice as well.
I mean, he was a fan casting that was that people were talking a lot about. They really wanted
Oh,
him.
okay.
They wanted him in WandaVision. They like that little rover thing that was being brought in. Oh god, no, I'm not even. Excuse me, I'm not even talking about fans. That was just the stupid Mr. Sunday movies. They were just spouting nonsense. It's like, and then Reed Richards builds the rover that what's her face Spectrum gets through the force field with, and it didn't do that thing at all. Why bring in all those people?
Yeah, but you don't know. You haven't seen the thing. You don't get to comment on the thing.
Fair enough.
But it is terrible.
I'm not. I kind of want to see it for footage for content purposes, but then part of me is like, I don't.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Like there's not really a single part of it that's enjoyable. And it's funny because it's one of the only movies I've ever been to where a guy walked in and sat down next to me, and we're still in like the very first fucking scene of the movie, and he like reaches over and taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, "This just started, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like he was so confused. He thought he had like he came in late to the movie, and I'm like, no, this is just the beginning. Like this is what
Okay, yeah, I could see why he
I
would
was like,
feel
yeah,
that
no,
way.
this is just the beginning of the film. We just started. I was like, huh.
Oh yeah, because it's like mid-action scene, right? The one of the Doctor Stranges in America, they're just running away from the monster. That's
Well, and then it cuts basically from that to the wedding scene. So it's like we're in here, like we're going, and he was just kind of like it almost feels like there's a scene missing in between those two. Like it's weird. It's a very very quick transition. Um, but it,
So to bring it back to the end game bit. You were trying to explain how it doesn't even follow its own rules.
it doesn't because it's not like the way that the ancient one lays it out is kind of like removing a stone creates a branching timeline, which she doesn't specifically say is a different universe, but it's kind of implied. But then, like, they really don't deal with anything multiverse until phase 4.
right?
Like
Phase
it's kind of gently implied in Endgame, but never specifically called multiverse or anything like that. It's not something that they really felt like screwing with, and I think it's because they were already juggling a lot with the time travel stuff.
in
That
fo- sorry, go ahead.
if they had added in the multiverse things as well, most your average moviegoer's brain would fucking melt. You know, just trying to follow all this shenanigans. And I think Endgame is hard enough to follow as it is,
Right.
that it's kind of for the best that they didn't do that. Unfortunately, because of that decision, phase 4 has kind of been doing a bit of retcon, trying to kind of explain things. But the issue is, in the first 3 phases, it felt like you had one person kind of steering the ship. Everything that happened felt very connected and kind of made sense with one another. All of the phase 4 shit makes no fucking sense. It's
Yeah.
all over the place. They contradict their own stuff. Like the way that they do multiverse in WandaVision and in Doctor Strange is very different from any of the shit that they explain in Loki. Which is really weird when you consider that the guy that wrote Loki wrote Doctor Strange too.
Oh God, don't.
Yeah.
And then Sam Raimi didn't even watch all the way through WandaVision.
Nope. Not that I can blame the man, to be fair.
Yeah, we suffered, and then we suffered for an additional 10 hours just trying to break it down.
But here's the fucking thing, right? Is I guarantee you, even after everything that happened in Wanda Strange 2, I'm sure there are still people out there who are sympathetic towards Wanda.
We're
And it's
talking
like,
with
no.
one, actually.
Oh, fuck off. Explain yourself now.
Okay, hold on.
No.
I don't know if I would say that I'm I don't know.
She's a villain.
Please justify to me how her grief allows her to take thousands of innocent men, women, and children hostage.
I feel like she didn't do it on purpose. I mean, she did it,
Irrelevant.
but well, isn't it though? Is it
No,
irrelevant?
it's not. Because here's the thing. As soon as she's told that that's what's happening, right? As soon as she learns that that's what's going on, she is not remorseful in the slightest.
Yeah, here's the thing. If she was as trapped as everyone else, if WandaVision, if in Westview she was as trapped as everyone else, that's not too bad, because she's because then it is just a true accident. But then afterwards, everything is explained, and she's keeping the illusion going, even to the point that she makes it bigger.
Well, and it's implied that, there's the whole song about how it was Agatha, but then we learn that that's literally not the case. Agatha was drawn to the town because of Wanda's hex. Wanda made the hex, not Agatha.
Yeah, and
Wanda made those people suffer. And like I said, even after she learns, like you could make the argument that it wasn't intentional. She had no idea what was going on. But once she is informed by the outside world that that is what is happening, she makes no effort to stop it. She actually makes it bigger.
Yeah.
To the point that in the final episode, the townspeople are like, please, if you won't let us go, let us die.
And then after all of that, Monica Rambeau goes, they'll never know what you sacrificed. And then Scarlet Witch just flies away when it's like, no, you would let yourself get arrested if you truly actually... Like, that's why...
Oh yeah, she makes no effort to help those people.
Yeah.
Like, you can argue that she helps them escape the hex as it's collapsing. Sure. But at that point, it's like, you've held these people captive, caused them massive amounts of physical, emotional, and psychological damage that will take years, if not decades, of therapy to fix, if at all, if it can be fixed at all. So I'm not going to give you points for letting them go, and it's like at this point it's like, no, that doesn't really make you. That's just you trying to even the score, and I wouldn't even say you've completely washed it away. And yeah, she takes absolutely no accountability whatsoever for what she did. And yes, every other character in the show basically treats her like, oh, she made this enormous fucking sacrifice. You know who made a fucking sacrifice for the people of that town? Vision. You know
Yep.
who's not in Doctor Strange 2 or in any of Wanda's fucked up fantasies? Vision.
I thought that was weird.
Yeah, really fucking weird. That in all of these multiverses, all of things where she's supposedly happy with the kids, Vision isn't a part of any of them. He's
When
not
it's
even referenced.
when it's also like Vision is technically their father. It's unless
Nope, they never have a father in any of the fucking universe. Not one.
and all of this, she does all this death and destruction, all for these kids. Where in our reality, they were not real. Like, yeah, in other realities they're real, but in the MCU, like the universe, which is called 616.
Well, here's the kicker, right? If she's this all-powerful fucking being who's capable of basically bending reality to her fucking will, why not just make them again? In our universe.
I thought that's
She has that power.
I thought that was what at the end of WandaVision. I actually thought that's what the deal was when she was looking at that book and stuff. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
she's clearly
No.
going to learn to make it a reality, and her kids will now just be real.
Well, I mean, maybe, but that could have been the implication. But that book is the Darkhold, and it's basically evil. So the implication is that the Darkhold was corrupted her into becoming the Scarlet Witch that she is in Doctor Strange 2. And maybe that's what they were going with. But here's the thing: that's a lot of significant character development to happen off fucking screen between a TV show and a movie.
Yes, especially when your director never even saw it.
Well, and we never really explicitly learn a lot about the Darkhold. Like, we know it's a book and it has a lot of power, but they don't really go into depth about it, and they don't really go into depth about it in Doctor Strange 2 either. It's just like the evil MacGuffin, and then there's a good MacGuffin. And that's it. Like, and then both of them get destroyed by the end of the movie. You're welcome. But it's like, okay, so even if we were going to go with that argument, we're going to say, okay, the Darkhold corrupted Wanda and turned her into this evil person. It's like, yeah, but what about all the residents of Westview and everything that happened before she got the Darkhold? How are you going to justify that? Because that was straight up fucking evil. There's literally that woman with the clothesline where she's crying. She's crying because it hurts so fucking much. She's been doing this motion repetitively for days.
When they're freed, and one of them just like, let me just see my kids.
Yeah, they're like, please let me see my children. Please let me go. Please let my children go. If you're not going to let us go, let us die. It's like, Jesus Christ, this is villainous shit.
Yeah, and those kids, they're going to be scarred for life because they experienced an adult's grief while just trapped in their rooms.
Unable to move.
It's fucking terrifying.
For an undetermined amount of time, but possibly. And that's just it. It's like there's a whole bunch of evil shit that happens there. And then in Doctor Strange 2, she's just straight up killing people. Like, a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I get that she's evil.
Well, but that's just it. There are people out there who don't. There are people out there who still think she's the fucking victim.
Also, hold on. You find, like, you're one like, oh yeah, she's evil. I was bringing this up to you as we were walking away from the theater, and you went, well, she killed herself in the end, like, as if that redeems her.
I mean, not to go there, but so did Hitler.
I mean, yeah, Hitler.
Pretty sure he hasn't gotten forgiven yet.
It's like, no, Wanda is just a straight up villain. It's also just lack of foresight when she murders the Wanda of that universe in front of her children, and then the children are just like, oh no, we hate you. And she's like, oh no, how could this have happened?
She doesn't kill her. She just throws her across the room.
Wait, so that Wanda is still fine?
Well, it's the same. The implication that I got based on the scratches and scars and stuff on her face is that it's the same Wanda that she took over when she killed the Illuminati. Because when she finally lets go of that Wanda, you hear her go, my boys, and she runs off to go check on her kids. So in that
Yeah.
universe, the Wanda is very like attentive to her children. And so when she goes back, she immediately gets into a fight with that Wanda and tries to kill her. But she basically does the Terminator thing where she just grabs her across the room. And
Why
the
does
boys
she
are like,
gotta
"Oh my
keep
god,
doing
Mom,
that?
are you okay?" And then as soon as the boys start screaming and freaking out, our Wanda turns to them and is like, "Hey, no, it's okay. Go away. You're a scary monster."
Wanda, what the fuck did you think was gonna happen?
Well, and it's funny because there's actually a line earlier on in the movie that specifically addresses that exact point. Where Doctor Strange is like, "What are you going to do with the other Wanda? Their real mother?" And she doesn't answer him. Like, she just attacks him because she knows he's right.
I did see a picture. It's like, Wanda, your children aren't real. You made them with magic. And she counters with, just like every mother does. And it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Wanda, you failed physiology. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
No, but there's also a scene where like Strange basically he talks to her and he's like, "Your anger or your whatever is like," I forget the phrasing of it, but it's bad. He's like, "It's justified."
Oh yeah, no, I heard this when I was listening to Drink to Open Bar. Your rage is justified.
Yeah, I was like, "Fuck off, Strange. It is not." Basically, it's like your vibrator died and you forgot to. Okay, that's what happened. But that's a fucking sacrifice, apparently, to some people. And I get it. Like, mentally, even though everything that happened with the kids in WandaVision went on, like, fucking, fast forward mode, she was still emotionally attached to them. I get that. Like, the kids were not real, but the emotional attachments were. That's fine. But there are ways to deal with that and process that and fix that don't involve, like, wholesale multiverse slaughter. But the reason that everybody's comparing Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness to Everything Everywhere All at Once is that they're both multiverse movies that came out fairly close together. But the way that they use multiverse in their storytelling is drastically different. So even though it's called the Multiverse of Madness, they really only go to two universes in Doctor Strange. Like, there's that one scene where they're like going through like 4 or 5 multiverses in a row, but it's very brief. It's for that one montage that they use in the trailer, and then that's it. You never really see that again. Otherwise, you're basically in universe A or universe. That's all you get.
It's really dumb.
It is. It's really fucking dumb. Because I was expecting there to be more levels of multiverse shenanigans, right? And
Yeah, because it's called the Multiverse of Madness. I would assume we
yeah,
would go
no,
to literally every fucking place. Well, not everywhere.
or I don't know, half dozen, 5, 6. Give me something.
Yeah, go to let's go to a universe where Thanos completely won, where he won at Endgame, where he did rip the universe atom by atom.
No.
Let's go.
And here's the
somewhere.
thing, like, as far as the other characters go, I mean, you have the Illuminati, that whole cameo sequence, but there isn't any other villain or any other, like, we don't see anything else happening other than Wanda. Like, Wanda is absolutely the villain of the show, but the way that the movie is portrayed, it's really her movie. Like, Doctor Strange is not the main character. After having seen the film, I completely understand Benedict Cumberbatch's statement of like, I don't know if my character even has an arc in this film. Because he really doesn't.
This is really sad.
Yeah, he really doesn't have an arc in this film. He's basically just told that he's wrong, he's bad, he's pretty much the source of all the problems ever. You're an evil, cis, hetero, white male. Like, I mean, that's pretty much the entirety of his character arc. is everybody shitting all over him. Christina shits on him. America Chavez shits on him. Fucking the Illuminati shit on him. Like,
Which is
Wong shits on him. Like, it's just everybody shits on Doctor Strange.
really sad because like I didn't realize this until I watched Doctor Strange recently. I actually really like his character, and I actually really like his abilities. I like Doctor Strange because I originally didn't like him in the comics, and
No, you need to put a D on that. You liked Doctor Strange. He's gone now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's fucking because now he's performing evil acts and also just being a general asshole. Because you told me about the Bruce Campbell cameo.
Oh
And it's
my
just like-
god, yes.
And it's just like, I just don't get it. What is with our heroes? Why are they just assholes now?
Yeah, he has Bruce Campbell beat himself up for like 3 weeks straight. Because
Yeah, I remember
America Chavez stole something from Bruce Campbell. Let's not forget that. She stole shit from him. She's clearly in the wrong, and Doctor Strange punishes him. Because fuck you, that's why it's a joke. We're supposed to laugh and go, tee hee, he's punching himself in the face. So funny. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? That's not what heroes do. A hero would have been like, you just stole from this man. Pay him.
Or and if she just went like, oh, money isn't a thing in this universe, then Strange would pay him or something. Like, they wouldn't just walk away from that.
Yeah, no, it's really fucking weird. It's like they just didn't want to address the problem. Maybe they thought it was going to bog down the script. And I'm like, then don't have her steal the food. I don't know. You put yourself in this fucking boat. And I think it's just because they wanted to have the line that she's fucking communist anyway. She's like, oh, in most universes, food is free. And then he's like, hey, kid, you just stole from me. And she's like, oh, apparently not in this one. But then instead of, addressing the man and being like, we're not from around here, she didn't realize it was stealing or anything like that, he just casts a spell on the dude and causes himself to punch himself in the face and like hurt himself over and over again for 3 weeks straight.
It's weird when we have when I was listening to like Y.A.R.P break down Shang-Chi, and during that bus fight he's trying to just make sure everyone in the bus is safe. It's just those tiny weird touches, like, oh yeah, these heroes are acting like a hero is actually wanting to save people, and you've just got all these like,
yeah, but that's not really
heroes.
what the MCU is about.
Yeah, we're not about heroes anymore. We're all about just everybody's a hypocrite or stupid or just
we're not about saving people in general. Like, if you think about most of the, especially Phase 4, like none of the movies are about them saving people anymore. Like, who did Captain Marvel save? You know what I mean? Like, it's just not a big part of their story anymore. Like, say what you will about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. I mean, they're far from perfect. But there are tons of scenes of him just randomly saving people. Saving people from fires, saving people from crashes, saving people from muggings. Like, you're constantly seeing him interact with the public.
Yeah, one of the most famous scenes from a Spider-Man movie is him stopping the train. He's trying to save those people. Like, as tismy as that is, it's just like he's still trying to help.
It's weird. That's just become such like a sideline thing in these superhero movies where it's not even about that anymore. Saving people isn't even part of the equation in these superhero movies, and it's just like, I don't know. It's weird to think that that's where we've come to. But again, multiverse, it's a tool. Like anything else, these are writing tools, and a tool is inherently neutral. It can be used for good, it can be used for bad. Everything,
that's
everywhere,
true.
all at once uses multiverse to a fantastic effect, and it uses it in a very smart way. Um, I mean, I don't really want to talk about it much
Yeah,
because I don't want to spoil that movie for anyone. If anyone that is listening, find a screening. I know it's hard. It's not showing on as many theaters or as many screens as it could be, but by all means, go see this movie. If you can't see it in theaters, when it comes out on digital, when it comes out on streaming, watch it right away. It is phenomenal. I've seen a lot of movies this year, and it is by far and away the best movie I've seen this year. It was better than Northman. It was better than Sonic 2. It was better than the Batman. You know, this is the movie to see. Um, it is well written. It is very competent. It treats its characters with a lot of respect. Um, and it has some really hard hitting moments. Uh, you know, and it's a very Chinese story. It's about a Chinese family, and it's primarily about a mother and a daughter. So I'm about as far from the fucking target demographic as you possibly get. You know, like this, and this is why the whole representation thing doesn't hold water with me, because based on their logic, I should not be able to relate with this film. I should not be able to relate with these characters because I'm not Chinese and I'm not a woman and I'm not gay. But I related with multiple characters in this movie that don't look like me, that don't sound like me, that don't have the same beliefs as me because they are well written and I understand their thoughts and their decisions that they make. And it's not a story that is afraid to pull its punches. It goes from being very serious to being very silly. But at the same time, it takes those silly moments and makes them serious. And it takes those serious moments and makes them. And I mean that in the best possible way. Trying to describe this movie to someone who hasn't seen it would be incredibly fucking difficult. But I'm telling you, you will watch it and you will have it's the way that they explain things makes sense. All of the characters treat it as such, and it has just the right amount of like ridiculous things happening to keep you invested. There is a fight scene that I'm sure, Wyatt, once you see it, you will absolutely want to break down with Tom or somebody because holy shit, it's
Oh,
amazing.
now I'm even more excited. Like I was actually going to say like we should do a tiny breakdown once Max and I have seen it, because Max is also going to see the Northman. Both of us should, like all the three of us should do like two separate like recordings of us talking about these films, because I really want to see
Yeah, I mean it's really good. I liked it a lot. The North. I really appreciated the historical accuracy of the Northman, um, and sort of that. But I was much more invested in the story of Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Mm-hmm.
Much better, more emotionally resonant. It's fantastic, and just if you are a parent, um, if you have a less than stellar relationship with your parents, if you are a spouse, like there's so many different types of relationships that it really looks in on. And holy shit, like it pays as much love and attention to a relationship happening in an alternate universe that for all intents and purposes shouldn't matter at all. And it treats it with the same amount of significance or for her and her daughter. And it's done with a degree of like reverence and respect that it's like, holy shit, I got more out of that little tiny subplot than I get out of most movies these days. And it's fucking sad. Like, this movie handles pacing to an absolutely insane degree. The sheer amount of information that is coming at you at any given moment, and yet you don't feel overwhelmed. You don't feel like you're being bombarded with it. It feels natural. It feels like things are being explained to you in a way where the person explaining it gives a shit.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing this movie.
Dude, it's so fucking good. And like I said, it's so hard to explain, and I don't want to spoil anything because goddamn, like there's so many things that hit, or just the absurd stuff. Because there is
Right.
absurd stuff in the movie, and it's like I said, there's absurd stuff that is just absurd of it, but then there's also absurd stuff that is like, holy shit, wow, that's actually like significant. And it's like, if I told you that all of these things happened in the same fucking movie, you'd be like, no fucking way.
All right.
No fucking way that happened in the same movie. It's
To,
absolutely real. Go see it.
all right. To slightly move on, I have, in relation to the topic of multiverses, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is the use of multiverse in Spider-Verse almost the same as the use of time travel in Terminator? It's more the inciting incident so that in the case of Terminator, so we can get the robot in the past, or in the case of Spider-Verse, so we can get all the other Spider-Men together.
Yes and no. I mean, you could argue that it's kind of the inciting incident. I would say that it's directly tied to the plot because it's part of Kingpin's like device,
Yeah.
and it's also a big part of the finale. Like, his device is bringing the multiverses together because he's trying to reunite with his family, and so it plays a big part in like the final battle as well,
Mm-hmm.
and getting everybody back home. Whereas in Terminator, it's literally just to get the robot into this timeline, because like you have this clearly very advanced Terminator machine in a very like 90s, 80s, 90s setting. So we needed an excuse to get this super futuristic thing into our day, but then we're just not ever gonna fucking deal with that again.
Yeah, like the most they'll ever go into it was the scene with Reese in the police station.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you get. And that's my thing, is like, it's not a big part of the plot. It's just kind of the thing that sets all the other dominoes in motion. And then once you have that, it's basically kind of pulled out of the movie. Like, they make a few brief mentions to it, but even then they're kind of like, that's not important. This is what's important right now. And they kind of redirect your focus to that.
Right.
I think we've harped on multiverse for a while now, and
Yes.
River was very excited to talk about the third topic on this list, which is the resurrection. River, do you want to kind of start us off? Maybe give us an example of good when this is so good.
Okay. Well, I don't know. See, I don't know what the standards would be as far as a good one. Um, I know we talked about in our pre-conversation what a bad one would probably be, which would be supernatural, seeing as they resurrect the main characters pretty much every season, and that's not something that you should probably do. Okay, it's to the point where when you're watching the show and someone dies, you're like, okay, I'm just gonna wait till the end of the season and see if they come back. Like, I'm not gonna cry yet.
Right. It's like your
Yeah,
emotional investment, because the idea behind a character death is that it's supposed to hit you emotionally. But every time you have a character die, And let's say it's either like a total fake out and it's like, oh, they weren't dead at all, they were just, we thought they were dead, but they, or they straight up just resurrect that character. It kind of, you're like, oh, well, you pulled the wool over my eyes. And it's kind of the whole fool me once, dynamic. And it's especially bad with resurrection because once you've introduced a system into your story, like a common example would be the Lazarus from DC Comics. When they introduced that in the Arrowverse, it's like, well, now you have not only a way to resurrect your characters, but essentially one that can be like, yeah, you can see there's side effects from using it, but there's nothing to stop them from resurrecting any number of people. So now you've introduced a mechanic into your universe that then has to be justified. Like if somebody dies and you don't want them to come back, you have to explain, well, why can they not just be tossed in the Lazarus pit? You have to come up with some bullshit explanation for, well, they were shot in the brainy brain and it did internal damage and we can't heal that. And it's like, well, you could before. So, and Supernatural is absolutely guilty of that. Like you said, they pretty much die every fucking season.
Yeah,
and they
and then
bring them back in just any slew of different ways. And so it makes it feel like there's no permanent stakes.
right.
And like you said, the next time that they die, you're not as emotionally attached to it or as emotionally invested as you were the first time that they, dangled that in front of you. The first time that you were watching the show and you were invested in these characters, the very first time that one of them almost died, you were like, holy shit. But then each time that they do that, you become less and less and less invested.
Right.
I actually might have an example of a good one, but I wonder if this is much of a cop-out. Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White. While he was technically resurrected, he's almost a different being.
Well, number one, he is a different being.
Yeah.
Number two, I don't know if I would specifically call that resurrection. It's kind of different. Hey, fuck off, you.
Yeah, because Gandalf did die. He was just brought back by the higher powers of Middle Earth until his task was complete. And he even says he is Saruman, as Saruman should have been. Like, he is a completely different person, hence why he almost forgot his name. Like, he had to be reminded of his name.
Well, I mean, not to try and toot my own horn, but I have a story that I've been working on for a long time. And there is a character in my universe that gets resurrected, but the way that I made this balanced is that there is a cost associated to resurrection, and it is not a small cost, and it is one that would cause like any normal person a large degree of hesitation. So I use it specifically to bring back one of my villains. And the way that it, the cost is something a villain might do, but a hero would not even consider. So that immediately closes a lot of potential loopholes because it's like, oh, well, that villain used it, but, none of the protagonists or none of the heroes would even consider doing that. So if I then show a hero that's put in a life or death situation, we don't have to be like, oh, well, they'll just resurrect him. It's fine. It's like, no, they wouldn't do that. So that's a way of kind of balancing it, is putting some sort of restriction on it. You can do the same thing with time travel. You can do the same thing with multiverse to try to balance it or limit it. But again, you have to be very incredibly careful.
Yeah,
like you have those stories with time travel where they can only go back like maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, or in the case of multiverse stuff in Doctor Who, there was literally a wall between universes.
Right, something like that, where it's like there are restrictions, not easy. It requires a lot of energy, or there's limited resources. Like anything you can do to make it something that's not commonplace, not something that can be done all the time, especially with multiverse and time travel, because man, like once you introduce that, it creates this can of worms where anytime you have a problem, well, it's like we'll just time travel. Just go back to before whatever villain, or before they got the MacGuffin, or before they did whatever to cause this issue. Just time
Right.
travel. It's fine. Or even if you're about to lose, you can just press the time travel button and go back and try again. You can technically try an unlimited amount of times.
In fact, Men in Black 3 actually did that. The bad guy's shooting his little needles thing, since the time travel is based off of momentum, they fall off the tower of the Apollo 11 launch thing. That gathers enough momentum, he resets the thing. They have that little fight, but he dodges all the moves. That's
I honestly don't remember the end of Men in Black 3. I've
Eh.
seen it, but it's been so long that I'm just like, I don't really remember.
It's got it's got like a nice heartism, but other than that, it's not like the best of them. Somebody in the chat, I'm sure they're just joking around, but it is something to consider if you believe in this is more of as a story. Somebody went, "What about Jesus?"
As far as resurrection.
Yeah, I think that would greatly depend on whether you view that as fictional or non-fictional. You can argue that the Bible is one of the best-selling books and all that, but I think the idea of resurrection, that story, isn't even so much about resurrection, which I know is going to sound like kind of a hot take, but stay with me here for a minute. So it's more about him transitioning from human to being God. Because, like, the whole point of the resurrection is, like, before he got crucified, he was a man. He was just like us. But after the crucifixion and the burial, he's not like us anymore. And so
in the eyes of the people, yeah.
Well, no, I mean literally. He's not a human anymore. Like, that's the whole point of the story, is he's basically reformed with God, and because that's the whole Godhead Trinity thing. It's like the God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. They're all essentially the same being, which is really
Right.
confusing if you think about it. Because it's like God sent his son, but it's like, well, don't you mean God sent himself? Because I don't know. It gets fucking tricky, is the point. It, as much as it's sort of the original story of resurrection, it's also not the traditional example of resurrection in fiction, whereas in the exact same character comes back, and essentially you come back to what people refer to as the status quo. So, like in Supernatural, for example, when Sam or Dean gets resurrected, they come back and it's like nothing happened. There is no change. Whatever sacrifice they had to make, whatever, it's just done and over with. It's like, oh, I died, now I'm resurrected, I'm back, and next week, tune in next week for our next adventure. Whereas with Jesus, he died for our sins, but when he came back, he wasn't just a regular human anymore. So it's not the same, it's very different. And maybe that's why it resonates with people a lot more than the very tropey way that resurrection is done in most fiction. Like, a great example that a lot of people point to is fucking comic books. I mean, just like Supernatural, anybody dies in a comic book, it's like, hold on, wait a few issues, they'll probably be back. You know what I mean? Like, nobody stayed dead forever.
Yeah, I think oh god, when they finally, like, for a good chunk of time killed Superman, I'm trying to remember how long he stayed dead. It was for like a couple years, wasn't it? Hold on, I
think
have the
so,
internet
but
I have the internet to my fingertips.
yeah, in general, any character that died, especially if they died in heroic sacrifice type way, was almost immediately back. And again, it's a situation where the status quo remains unchanged. It would be different if when they came back there was like maybe a part of them that was changed, or a part of them that was gone, or something like that. but they very rarely did that, especially in comic books. It was like the person basically got a get out of death free card, and they just, got to come back, no questions asked. It's like, just have a do over, try again. And to me, it really undercuts your sacrifice, that moment where the hero, takes one for the team or risks his life to save someone else. And then it's like, well, now you just undercut the significance of that sacrifice in the first place. Because even if you really love that character and you really want to see more of them, if they make that big sacrifice and then they immediately come back, did they really make a sacrifice at all?
Well, yeah, that's why we all give Rise of Skywalker shit, because they immediately reduced Anakin's sacrifice when he killed Palpatine the first time, because we thought that was it. That was like, he's dead.
Well, it's just, I mean, yeah, you can argue that in some that they made the sacrifice not knowing they were going to be immediately brought. But
Right.
again, even if that's the case, it still understates their sacrifice, because it's like, oh, well, they did the heroic thing, so they just get to come back. And then it's like, well, now the next time that they're in a situation where they have to choose between making a heroic sacrifice or not making it, as the reader or as the watcher, you're going to be like, well, they're just going to do it because the last time it worked out for them.
Yeah, it's like we make the joke of like, oh, they'll just get the Dragon Balls.
Yeah, I mean, Dragon Ball Z was kind of horrible about that. I mean, at least there was a lot of and rules on how it worked. But yeah, they essentially had a literal wish system to just bring people back at will. And I mean, there are definitely worse examples out there but it can definitely fuck with the stakes of your story. And that's why it's not something that's bad all the time. But it's something that you have to be very, very careful of. You have to put a lot of thought and consideration into how it's going to work in your story universe, so you have to think, okay, like, let's say you're writing for your main character, your protagonist, and you're like, okay, so they're going to die and I'm going to resurrect them. It's like, okay, well, once you do that, what are the implications that puts on your character? How does that affect the supporting characters around them? What does that mean for the villain of your story, the antagonist? What does that mean for your greater world as a whole? Is this like a one-off kind of resurrection? Is this a new mechanic that you're introducing to the universe? If it is, how are you explaining it? Is it something that's very limited, or is it something they can use as much as they want? Is this going to have any lasting impacts on your character? Like, it's not something that you would want to use lightly. And I think what makes these three tropes particularly dangerous is that once you start to rely on them, it becomes not just a crutch, but almost like an addiction. It's kind of like a hole. You fall in and you start relying on them, and it's hard to get away from them. Like, once you've introduced them to your world, they have a tendency to kind of take, because they affect the universe in such a drastic way that once they've been introduced, it's very hard to go back and undo that.
And with some stories, they'll even double dip. Like, to explain a thing that's on the thumbnail, Ahsoka is on there. They resurrected her via time travel with that whole world between worlds thing that I explained a tiny bit before the stream started. If you rely on these tropes, it will just create double dip scenarios, and you just can't stop it, because they time traveled to specifically have Ahsoka survive her fight with Darth Vader, when in all reality she should have died, because her story was basically complete, and she was fighting her master who had fallen to the dark side. But because Dave Filoni can't help but let his character die, he pulled some bullshit. And that's just what happens.
Well, and I think it's more so with time travel and resurrection. But like once you've introduced time travel, once you've introduced multiverse, like every Marvel story that comes out from now on has to address one of those two things, if not, because you have introduced time travel to the MCU in more than one way, and you have now introduced multiverse. And it's kind of like we were talking during the pre-conversation. So the stakes in Doctor Strange 2, every multiverse across the of being destroyed. And I don't like the movie, but I can at least acknowledge that you have reached a level of stakes that cannot be topped at this point. There is nowhere to go but down. There is no greater threat than what essentially amounts to infinity times trillions. You're talking about every life in the multiverse is at risk of being destroyed. And where was everyone else? And you know how much I hate that argument, but it's like we're talking about beyond, like, this is the threat that is brought up in this movie is literally infinite times larger than the entirety of the Infinity Saga. Thanos is irrelevant.
Oh, that's such a hard
stakes,
statement. Hold on. That is actually such a hard statement to hear. Holy shit, it's Endgame's only like Endgame's not even 5 years old, and you just hit me with that statement. Holy fuck.
Dude, it's insane to think about, to try to wrap your mind around. Like, there are people who don't truly understand the gravity of what Thanos did, and they're still kind of trying to wrap their mind around that. And then you introduce this? Holy shit. And then you have this going on, and there are no other event. Like, we're talking a larger threat than Thanos ever could have been, and no other Avengers show up to deal with it.
Yeah,
Nobody.
During the pre-conversation, I made a joke of like, oh yeah, if they were to do Galactus, what the fuck's the yeah, one planet versus the entire multiverse was threatened. Yeah, that's that planet's gonna just look like a drop in the puddle.
Well, yeah, and now it's like, because you've introduced magic and your average like cosmic threats, like Ego and Galactus and all that kind of, doesn't matter. You're no longer raising the stakes. It's like, oh my god, Galactus, Planet Eater, who gives a shit? We're talking about multiverses. Like, they indicate that the Doctor Strange from Universe B killed one universe unintentionally, costing trillions of lives, and he feels so bad about it that he submits to the Illuminati for execution.
And that was just to kill Thanos in that universe, right?
He used the Darkhold in an attempt to beat Thanos, but he wasn't successful, so they ended up using the other MacGuffin to kill Thanos. But in his pursuit of power to stop Thanos, he caused an incursion, which is when two universes try to occupy the same space, and one or both universes is destroyed in the process.
Yeah, I think I'd submit to death as well. I'd be like,
So he cost the lives of trillions of beings, and they were like, hey, glad we defeated Thanos. That's awesome. You're gonna have to die, bud. And he was like, yeah, no, you're right. I was out of line. And he submits to execution via Black Bolt. And you get to see Black Bolt use his powers on Dr. Stephen Strange.
Although, didn't you tell me when you were explaining Doctor Strange to me? Didn't you tell me that the Illuminati determined all Stranges are?
This is a conclusion that they came to after his execution.
Okay.
Because basically the Christine in their universe like this super genius multiversal researcher. And so she works directly with the Illuminati. They're the ones credited with naming the different. They're the ones who gave us Universe 616.
Nope.
Yeah, that happened.
No, I reject your reality in
And
this instance.
so basically, they kind of declare that they know more about the multiverse universes. Like, that's why the Illuminati exists. And their findings have been that it's not just their Stephen Strange that caused problems, but every Stephen Strange across every multiverse. Like, that they were all capable of doing the same thing that he did. And that's where it kind of almost becomes like a bad version of Minority Report, because they're essentially casting guilt on all Doctor Stranges for being potentially what their Doctor Strange was without them actually doing it. So they have essentially classified Stephen Strange in all of his forms as being the most dangerous being in the multiverse. And it's weird because, in Loki, not that I'm a fan of that show, but they showed that, like, there's different variations of you across the multiverse. Like, in black guy, in one universe he's a girl, in one universe he's like an old British guy, in one universe he's a fucking alligator. They don't do any of that in Doctor Strange. Like, in every, he's fucking Benedict Cumberbatch. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the same.
I mean,
in every universe.
I'm sorry. You give me the opportunity. You give anyone the opportunity of a multiverse story. I feel like there will probably be some obvious ones. Like I'd be like,
no, literally the coolest scene that you get in multiverse is the one they show where they're like, where he grabs onto America Chavez and going through the fucking portal, and they get sucked through like all these different dimensions, and you see him kind of flash by for a few seconds. Like, there's a black and white universe, there's like a futuristic universe, there's a one where they're all paint, and then that's it. Like, it flashes through those universes, and then they eventually, okay, story resumes.
That makes me so fucking sad. Because when you had first dropped that you hated Doctor Strange, well, not that you hated it, that it was just a bad movie. I asked you, oh, would this be a good time? High, because the first, because if anyone remembers Doctor Strange 1, one of the best sequences is when the Ancient One's just fucking with him. And he's like, there's the hands coming out of his fingers, there's like just being revealed the dark dimension. And I asked, like, is any of that in there? And you just told me it's just that one sequence. And it's like, when they just show glimpses of what Doctor Strange, like how that visual style comes across, like when they did that in Infinity War, that was amazing. They don't do that as much, and that makes me very sad. Oh, and even in fucking No Way Home, when he puts Peter in the mirror dimension, that was really fucking cool. Are we in the darkest timeline? Is that what this hour-length conversation has just revealed?
I mean, I don't know if I would say the darkest. I mean, like, there is good shit.
Yes, there.
It's just, there's definitely a lot of bad out there, and it's unfortunate because all of these franchises that I grew up used to be like a intrinsic part of nerd culture. We had Star Trek, we had Star Wars, we had Lord of the Rings, we had our comic books, and it's like, the worst thing about all those things becoming mainstream and popular is that they've all been fucking ruined. And this is why I to this day will defend gatekeeping when done properly. You know, I'm not saying that you should keep every out of, for God's sakes, keep out the fucking audio log. Because man, it's not fun watching all of these franchises be absolutely run into the ground and destroyed. I mean, Star Trek is dead. Star Wars is dead. All of these things are dead. Alien is dead. Predator is dead.
Lord
It's
of the
like,
Rings is
man,
on the chopping block, and
it's on the chopping block.
a lot of people are saying like, no, we will draw the fucking line here.
Well, and that's the thing is like, and for anyone who thinks it's not real, right? Anyone who thinks that it can't happen, maybe I'm over. Look at Game of Thrones season 8. Look at how fast that show went from being everywhere all the time. There were ads for it everywhere. There was, everybody was talking about it. Everybody was, nobody would shut up about it. It was a global phenomenon. Season 8 drops, that shit is gone. Ghosted. Nobody talks about it. Nobody references it. Nobody quotes it. It is gone.
Yeah, I had
That's how you kill an IP. It's dead.
I've had a conversation with Slur about this, and it's like, because you and me, we've had plenty of conversations about Warhammer and how they look like they're taking the soy path. And
It's coming.
I was talking with Slur, and it's like, how come Warhammer, like 40K, isn't suffering the same bit as Star Wars or Marvel?
Well, okay, here's the thing. It starts off with shit behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I was so concerned when I saw the employment application thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is what happens, right? It starts off with their hiring and the type of people that they're bringing on to their creative team. It starts off innocently enough. And even a lot of these like crazy political ideologies, they start off with good intentions, right? The
Right.
things that they're advocating for don't sound bad. Like equality. Equality is a good thing. We should all want to work towards equality. But what they're saying is equality. That's what they're saying that they want. But what they say they want and the actions that they take to get equality are not the same.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, well, you're saying one thing, but what you're doing is this. And it's the same thing with all these people that are like, the far left, especially, preaches about being anti-racist. And that's good. Like, racism is bad. Nobody should want to be racist. But they've gone so far in the pursuit of being anti-racist
That they're racist again.
that they're racist again. Because now it's not enough just to be anti-racist. If you're white, you're racist by default. If you're not hiring enough black people, your company is racist. So now it's about ticking a box. And when you're treating people differently based on the color of their skin, I don't care what your reasoning is, that's racist.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how you slice it. And so now they've had to move the goalpost. They've had to change the definition. Well, you can't be racist against white people because it's about a social power dynamic. And it's like, well, is it though?
Yeah,
It's not.
Sarah, what's that from? That's like Dear White People or something. You showed me that clip. I like how you're trying to like
It's
communicate
weird.
across the room with.
But yeah, it's unfortunate. To kind of reel it back though, um, storytelling in general has been kind of going down the drain, and I feel like the ideological stuff has been a big part of that, because now it's not as much about the story, it's more about the message. But I think a lot of these tropes have also been used because if you're somebody who is fairly new and inexperienced at writing, these are ways to artificially create drama and stakes. And to be fair to these writers, it works pretty well the first time, right? Like the first time in Supernatural that Sam or Dean died, it was pretty nerve wracking because holy shit, you just killed off one of the main characters. Like, god damn, that's crazy. What's going to happen? So the first time you do that in a story, whether it's time travel, whether it's direction, you haven't necessarily lost the viewer yet. But like I said, once you open up that door, it becomes so easy to go to that again and again to create this sort of artificial drama. But unfortunately, they don't realize that this stuff has diminishing returns. Every time you kill a character off and then bring them back with resurrection, it's like, okay, the next time you kill that character or even just threaten them with major injury, it's like I'm not as invested anymore because I know that them being injured or them dying doesn't necessarily mean that it's a loss. Or I know that even if that character dies, oh, we can just go back in time, or oh, we can just pop open a portal and grab a character that's basically the exact same from another universe.
Yeah, like
and
that's,
just pick up like nothing ever happened.
yeah, which is why they're gonna need to, if when Guardians 3 comes out, they're gonna need to be really careful with with that Gamora, because that's not the Gamora they know. It's not. It's a completely different person. It's pre-Guardians Gamora.
We'll have to see. That might even change in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah, we don't know how big of a part the Guardians are gonna play. I wish they wouldn't. I wish the Guardians would stay as far away from Thor, because I don't like him.
I'm just tired of watching him go through the same arc again.
Yeah, they keep resetting him, and it's really annoying. Because I bet if either of us had control of Endgame, we would not have had him. We wouldn't have had him go off with the Guardians / giving the throne of Asgard to Valkyrie. It was time for him to be king.
I mean, yeah, I think that's what Odin would.
Mm-hmm.
That was the whole reason he had that big conversation with him about like Asgard is not a place, it's the people, and they need you. But it makes you feel like each previous movie that you watch, instead of being like a building block that leads you to the story that you're currently on, it's more like it was a slap. Like, oh, I wasted my time because we're basically going on the same fucking again. So what you're telling me is like I didn't need to watch Thor. I didn't need to watch Thor 2. I needed to watch Ragnarok. I needed to watch, Infinity War and Endgame. And now I need to watch Love and Thunder. But I'm just like I don't have a strong desire to watch Love and trailers look really bad.
Oh, did you see the second trailer where they actually
No, I've been seeing in my like YouTube recommendeds where like apparently he's like on trial or something and he's like naked.
Yeah, so what happens is they're like, oh yeah, let us take off your disguise. And he flicks all his clothes off so hard that not only is he naked, it kind of got him a bit hard, and people start fainting.
Oh.
And Valkyrie and Jane are watching this, and they're just like, should we help him? Let's watch for a little bit. Grape? And it's just like, oh, I'm sorry. If this was a woman, this wouldn't be fucking happening.
See,
And and they
and that's a
pixelated it,
perfect
by the way.
example, right?
So,
No, that's fine. That's fine. But here's my thing. That's a perfect example, okay? Most women are like, feminism, equality, yay, right? And I think most reasonable men out there are all for equality. They have no problem with that. But what feminism used to be and what it is now are not the same. This is a perfect example because, like you said, if the roles here were reversed, would women be okay with that?
they wouldn't.
No. They'd be like, oh my God, she's being objectified, she's being stuff. They'd say it was horrible and misogynistic and sexist and all this other stuff. But yet you do that to a guy and it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Tee it's
It,
objectifying
yeah,
men.
it's objectifying men, so it's funny. Well, but if your goal is equality, then you should be against objectification of either gender, not just one or the other. And so that's where I'm like, it's not about equality. They say it's about equality. It's not. They want superiority. They want basically revenge, but they're not bold enough to call it that. They're like, women have been oppressed for so long. We want the shoe to be on the other foot. So what you're advocating for is you want to oppress men. And that's why there's so many men out there that resist this kind of shit and are like, absolutely not.
Yeah,
Because
it's
even though they're not saying it, men sense it, they feel it. They're being attacked at every turn. It's hard not to acknowledge it.
well, it's like when somebody says like, "Oh, we just want equality." I immediately bring up, it's like, "Oh, so you'll be fine if you get drafted, right?" Because that's just it. If you want all, like, you gotta take the bad with the good. That's just it.
But that's not what they want.
Mm-hmm.
They want all the positives, none of the negatives. And
Some
that's not equality.
somebody just put in the chat. I haven't seen Multiverse of Madness yet, but something really bugs me. If America is the only universe traveler, what is Dormammu? Dormammu is the
We don't talk about that, because here's the thing, like it's really weird, right? So America Chavez is presented as the only being, like there is no America Chavez in another universe. Like she literally says she's been to 70 different, and she's never found another. So she's the only one of her that exists, and she's the only one that has that power. Well, number one, there's the whole question of, well, even though she's the only one, if she's traveled to 72 universes, doesn't that mean she could potentially be responsible for 72 different incursions?
Oh my
Like,
god.
it's like, let's not answer that question. We're not going to dwell on. So let's just presume, to Steelman the movie, because God help it, it needs all the help it can get. We'll say that she's not capable of causing it. Fine, whatever. Wanda from our universe is revealed to be the one that is sending monsters through other universes to chase her and try to kidnap her
Oh
and bring her back to our universe. How is Wanda doing this? And it's like, well, the typical defense is, well, she's got the dark. It's like, okay, but so does every other universe. Like, the Darkhold is not unique. Every universe has one. So if Wanda can send these monsters after, fairly accurately, mind you, she actually sends them to the correct universe. Why does she need America at? Why doesn't she just send the monsters to kidnap children?
So I didn't know that Wanda was the one sending the monsters.
Oh, it's really stupid. So it's actually more stupid than that, right? So Wanda. So after Strange and America get attacked, him and Wong are like sitting down in a cabin, and they're trying to kind of figure their shit out. And so there's a little bit of exposition dump. There's a really weird Spider-Man joke, and then he's like, "Well, him and Wong determined that the monster had runes on it, and runes is not sorcery. That's witchcraft." So
Fuck.
Strange. So
Mm.
Strange is like, "Well, hey, I know good at witchcraft. Let me go ask them for help." So he goes and talks to Wanda, and she's in the little, like, I think they call it an apple orchard. They don't look like apple trees to me, but whatever. She's in this little orchard, and he goes there, and this is where the whole conversation pops up, where she's like, "I know you're here to talk to me about Westview," and he's like, "I'm not here to talk to you about Westview." Anywho, he starts explaining his situation to her. And he's like, "We have this girl, and she's in danger. Like, they're sending monsters after her, and we need her to stay safe." And she's like, "Well, why don't you just bring America here to me?" And this causes Steven to pause. Because during the entirety of their conversation, Steven has always referred to her as this girl or a girl. He has never said her name. So Wanda then pauses and goes, "Oh, you didn't tell me her name, did you?" And he goes, "Nope." And so she sort of like twirls her hand, and the apple orchard disappears. And I shit you not, they're in like this fucking hellscape dimension that makes Kaled from Elden Ring look like sunny Florida. It is insane. Like, there is no way that a being as powerful as Doctor Strange did not realize he was in some kind of fucking illusion.
Regardless of his fucking title, Strange is still the Sorcerer Supreme. It was said in his first fucking movie that he has a natural gift for the mystic arts. And also, I really don't like that statement of, like, this is sorcery, this is witchcraft. Magic is magic.
Not in this universe.
I...
So, it's weird. There's also a scene where he gets disrespected as Sorcerer Supreme because America Chavez brings up the Book of Ashanti, which is basically the good MacGuffin alternative to. And Doctor Strange immediately counters with, "Well, that's a." And Wong goes, "Well, no, actually, it is. It's in one of the books that you get to read when you become Sorcerer Supreme."
He's been... Okay, so, he's...
Yeah, Strange was already Sorcerer Supreme, and we've been shown that voraciously. There is no way that there was a book that you only get to read when you become Sorcerer Supreme that he was like, "Nah, I'll just read that later."
What? Okay, so what was the time gap between Doctor Strange, Thor Ragnarok, and Infinity War?
We don't fucking know.
There's
like, that's the problem.
Fucking time gap.
There's a lot of these movies that are kind of all happening simultaneously. Like, everything that happens in one particular phase is supposed to kind of be going on at the same. I think phase 1 did it the best, where you had like basically Iron Man, the first Avenger, Thor, like all of those movies are basically kind of happening simultaneously, and then everybody unites in Avengers.
Yeah, Iron Man 2, Thor, and Incredible Hulk are all happening at the same time.
Right. So I feel like as the phases went on, they kind of were a little bit fast and loose with that. But I think they do that intentionally because they don't want to be pinned down on those kind of questions.
Yeah, because somebody theorized that Doctor Strange actually takes place throughout quite a few years, even as early back as Avengers 1. Because you actively, during those time skips, you see his hair getting gray while he's studying at Comatage.
I mean, it's possible, but I mean, there's so many things that this movie does to not only shit on its own, but to shit on the world building and like the plot and the MCU in general. And it's all happening so goddamn fast that it's hard to process, like, as you're watching the movie. Literally every scene, every line of dialogue, everything that happens is either contradicting itself or something that happened in another movie. Like, I have never seen a movie that is this at war with itself and its source material. It is insane. EFAP gave this movie a 0.5 out of 10, and it absolutely earns that score. Like, is it entertaining? Sure. On the surface, there's some pretty things to look at, I guess. But god damn, the story is a fucking mess. And I really don't know where they're going to. They have more than jumped the shark. Like, there is no coming back from what you have just opened. It's done.
Yeah, I've been told Secret Invasion is taking place during the 5 years of the blip, and I just looked at that guy and I went, if that's true, I still don't trust. I don't trust
Well,
Disney to tell a good story.
At this point, right? Even if it is, right? It suffers from the same problem that Black Widow did, right? Nobody cared about the Black Widow movie because by the time it came out, Black Widow was dead.
Yeah.
So everything that happened in that movie is irrelevant. It's like, well, we already know how her story ends. So thanks, I guess. And we were hoping that that movie would maybe fill in some of the gaps with like her and Clint or with her and the Hulk and kind of, you know, fill in her gaps in the Avengers storyline. Nah, she has two other families. We don't have time for shit. It's like, oh, thanks, I guess, for retroactively making her a piece of shit. Appreciate that. But they've done this with literally every character, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Iron Man's gone. We're gonna get Ironheart. I guarantee it.
And it's not even gonna be interesting. I've literally been thinking, like I've been like while walking to get like food or something, I've been thinking, all right, there is a way you can do Ironheart. You can do this well, but they're just not gonna do it because they're just gonna focus on the idea that a black girl got an Iron Man suit, and that she's just the greatest. When I immediately thought of, why don't you just pull an Ant-Man and she just fucking steals it? And then we just see who she is as a character. Why don't we see something like that, where she's not the best, she's flaws, all of this stuff, but they won't fucking do it.
No, but we got Captain America is gone, replaced by, you know, Captain Falcon, the super simp. You've got Hawkeye is gone, replaced by Kate Bishop.
Which I didn't
Black
even
Widow
watch.
is gone and has been replaced by Elena. You've got Hulk is gone. He's been replaced by She-Hulk now. So all of the characters from the earlier phases are gone.
And
I mean, I don't have a lot of hope for Thor because there's even in the trailer where he's like, my superheroing days are over. And even if that line is taken out of context from the movie, the fact that you're willing to feature it that heavily does not bode well. So he's gone, presumably being replaced by a combination of Valkyrie and Jane Foster.
who might
Moon
become
Knight is
lesbians.
gone.
Moon Knight wasn't even. Oh my god! I watched Drinker's video.
He was replaced in his own fucking.
Yeah.
He's been replaced in his own. So that's what I'm saying. All of the male characters have been replaced, and it's like you wonder why people call it the MCU. This is why. Because you took all of the male characters and either killed them off or replaced them with female counterparts. And instead of doing it in any kind of like meaningful or significant way, it's just they inherit the powers or they're given the powers suddenly with very little explanation, and they are just the bestest ever.
which is just so fucking irritating. Because
Well,
imagine
it's
just
patronizing.
yeah,
If I was a woman, I would be fucking insulted. I would be like, really?
we
This is what you think I want to see? This is what you think I'm going to be impressed?
well, I was gonna say there's a woman in this very chat, Sarah. Would you not feel offended by any of this shit?
I mean, honestly, it didn't occur to me to be offended, but I see what you guys are saying.
Well, it hasn't reached the peak yet, right? Because they haven't gone through the effort of creating like because Feige has came out and said there will be another Avengers style movie, but I know for a fact he's lying through his fucking teeth.
He has to be.
He has to be. There's no way they're not going to have a crossover type movie. They're setting all of these things up so that eventually they can have another Avengers type crossover movie. But here's the thing, it's like instead of having all of these individual characters who had like their backstory and everything was kind of established and then they came together in the Avengers, you have all of these characters who are just the best because they say so. It's going to be like a 2-hour version of that woman scene from Endgame where all the ladies just lined up.
Which, by the way, that shot in and of itself is not offensive. It's like, especially, or maybe it's just the idea that I view it as like the last MCU movie. So it's like, all right, fine, get them all in one shot.
No.
Yeah,
It is offensive. I think I was talking with it was either Max. I think I was talking with Max or State, but that scene, that girl power moment, happens like minutes after Black Widow is dead. So this powerful scene of all the MCU girls coming
and
together,
we don't have the original,
and we don't have Black fucking Widow in that scene.
Fuck, because you know what's.
But girls get it done, right?
Holy shit. Okay, hold on. That's actually pretty fucking offensive. Because
Yeah.
at least in Infinity War, it's like she's not alone. And it was what's her face from Black Panther movies and Black Widow. It's like, that's how you do that.
Yeah, no, it's kind of insulting when you look at the footage of standing there.
And there's
This is after Black Widow has sacrificed herself. And like I said, it's not that long between the sacrifice of Black Widow and that like it's pretty damn close. And it's like, oh, so wow, like if she had lived for just a few more God damn it,
Fuck me. Imagine if we were in the writing room and like say I wrote that down. You'd be like, "What? Wait, Wyatt, who's not in this scene?" I'd finally put it together and I'd be like, "Nope, change some scenes around. We need to fix this immediately if we are going to do this scene."
It's so weird. Like it's so weird. And I don't know why it's just with Black Widow. Like if you think about it, all of the other characters that I mentioned, that were basically replaced were all men. Except for Black Widow. Black Widow is the only one that gets basically killed off and replaced with another girl. But yet, for some reason, she doesn't get the same. I don't know I'm struggling to find the exact word.
The same reference.
But it's like, well, it's not even reverence. It's like all of these other women get treated like, because they're girls, they're better than all these guys, right? They're special, they're all powerful, they're just the bestest ever. But for some reason, because she was part of that first generation, because she was objectified, I don't know, but for whatever reason, she doesn't get treated the same. She doesn't get that same like level of courtesy extended to her character by the writers. It's weird. Like, even though she's female, and you would think that would entitle to her same sort of benefits and special treatment, it doesn't.
Yeah,
Like, she
somebody.
gets thrown under the bus just as quickly as the guys do. And maybe it's, like I said, maybe it's because she's part of that initial first generation and they just want to get rid of all of those characters. I don't know. But it's weird. Like, she doesn't get to have that same girl power type moment. Maybe it's because she never needed it. She was competently written. At least she was in the first few movies during like
Oh yeah.
phase 1, phase 2.
Oh yeah. Anyone who says like, I think somebody tried to talk shit on Black Widow in Avengers 1. And it's like, I'm sorry, if you look at the scene of her being interrogated and then also her interrogating Loki, those are fucking great scenes. Now she
Yeah,
flips the situation around and everything.
it's weird. She's like the one girl, and it's like, okay, I guess. Weird flex, since you're claiming to be super feminist, but I mean, fucking Pepper Potts gets to be in that girl power scene, and Gwyneth Paltrow couldn't even remember being in the fucking movies.
Yeah, we Sarah and I have talked about that. She's so focused on Goop that she didn't even remember she was in Iron Man 1.
It's like, bitch, you were in the Marvel movies. What the
When her agent is trying to get her back to be Pepper in like a new Spider-Man movie or something, she's like, "What? What's this Marvel? I don't remember being in any of those."
It's weird. It's something that, like, I don't know. I know she had a fairly small, all things considered. It wasn't like she was the lead or anything. God damn, she was basically the secondary character in Iron Man 3.
Oh yeah,
And
Pepper
and
has a
it's
lot
it's
more
like,
weight.
how could you forget being in these fucking movies? Like, you were a huge part of them.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
one
they
of my
didn't go into it as far as they could have, but she's supposed to be rescued.
yeah, and then
Like,
she finally like fuck me. I know it's just
that
flashy
should have
lights and shit.
happened a lot.
Well,
If it had happened a lot sooner, it would have, she would have been featured in the movie
right, and
if Tony had given her the fucking arm.
well,
But whatever.
it's like a. I know I'm just pointing at like the flashy lights, but they're like during Endgame when she pops up, and then when she and Tony are flying back to back, it's like this is what like. Yeah, it is flashy lights, but this is kind of what we like. It was for the split second that the MCU became the comics again, because I do like those grandiose shots.
Yeah, but a lot of that is just fan service.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not saying that all fans are bad or that you
right.
should avoid it. I mean, quite frankly, the MCU could probably benefit from more of it. But it just, at this point, it's kind of true what they're saying. Like, the MCU isn't us anymore. We're not the target audience anymore. People who grew up on the comics, were familiar with these characters, household names. It's not for us anymore.
And I
They
think
don't care about us anymore.
and I think that's why that pisses me off so much, and kind of like why it's so hard to like let go of Star Wars. It's because I just hear that and I go, motherfucker, I was here first. I'm not letting like.
But it doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, you were, but as far as they're concerned, you're not the one paying the bills anymore. Even though you kind of are, which is why, it's weird. Like, the studios don't understand what being a fan is anymore. Like, they see the term fan as almost like a bad word. Like, they associate the word fan with those toxic fans, and I really hate that fucking term anyway. But it's how they view them. If you describe yourself as a fan, you're like some unhinged fucking nut,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's weird.
with that Kenobi stuff coming out, there was a bunch of stuff with Vanity Fair, and Kathleen Kennedy warned that lady who's playing like the female Inquisitor. It's like, careful, there are some toxic Star Wars fans, and it's just like, stop it, Kathleen, get the fuck out of my franchise, please.
Well, but here's the deal, right? It's useful to them because as long as they say that the toxic fans exist, and let's be real, as much as I hate the term, there are some fucking toxic
yeah.
fucking people out there.
There are.
So
Yeah.
as long as there are examples, they're going to use it as a shield. Because then no criticism that gets levied at them is legitimate. It's
Yeah.
always just coming from some toxic man base. And they can therefore dismiss whatever it is you have, regardless of how valid the criticism, they can choose to ignore. Which, hey, I mean, fuck. If I had a job and, my boss came to me and was like, hey, we're gonna do a performance review. And I was just like, well, yeah, but your criticism doesn't mean anything. I mean, how fucking awesome would that be? But I don't get to do that. If my boss gives me a bad performance review, I gotta, change my shit up or get fired.
Yeah.
But these people don't have to do that. They can just go, oh, well, they didn't like it because, or they didn't like it because they're sexist, or they didn't like it because it was a black woman. Like, no, we didn't like it because it was shit. But as long as they have those shields to hide behind, and it's weird because it almost feels like they've gotten beyond the point where one shield is enough. So they try to look for a shield that ticks as many different boxes as possible. Like, oh, we've got the woman box, and then on top of that, they're a minority, so there's that box.
The
Oh,
Rose
and
Tico
they're
argument.
gay, so there's that box. So it's like we've got multi-layered shields now that we can hide behind. It's like, oh, you didn't like her because she was female, and then it's like, well, no. Oh, well, then you didn't like her because she's this minority or this race. No. Oh, you must hate her because she's gay. It's like, no, I hate her because she can't fucking act and she destroyed this character I love. That's it.
Yeah.
And honestly, here's the real fucking hot take. I don't blame most of these actors.
Oh, it's
Because
never the
nowadays, well, I'm not going to say it's never the actor. But what I will say is that these days, it's so fucking hard to tell the difference between a good actor and a shit actor because the writing across the board has just dipped so low that there are cases where I genuinely can't tell. Is it this actor's bad performance that's fucking shit up, or is it the writing? Or is it both? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's when
Well, I just recently watched the trailer for She-Hulk, and I did not realize that Tatiana Maslany is playing She-Hulk, and she's an amazing actress. I don't know if you've seen Orphan Black, but she is like she's very, very convincing. Um, so that could be an example of
Well,
someone.
I'm sorry she pissed somebody off because I mean I don't know how she ended up in that fucking abomination, but Jesus Christ, that show is.
I
So
was
if she really is a talented actress, I feel because this is not going to go well.
I think I was talking with Sarah, and it's like, oh, why is She-Hulk bothering me so much? And it's because it's hitting so many boxes. One, like when she says being a superhero is for like egotistical rich people or orphans, and it's just like, oh wow, you're shitting on everything and everybody, including your own cousin. And then the show looks like it's just gonna be either a legal proceeding, which wouldn't be too bad. I just wouldn't watch it. But then it's also just watch her get hookups, and then shows that guy being cradled like a baby, and it's just
It's a really weird trailer, which already, like, just on its own would be a hard sell, especially because, let's face it, that watch these comic book shows are young men. So you already have a concept that is kind of like along the lines of like a Ally McBeal. It's like a very like Sex in the City, but she's a lawyer. It has that kind of vibe. So already that pitch is going to be a hard sell to guys in general.
Yeah,
Then on top of that, you add it's not comedy about nerds. It's comedy making fun of nerds. You know what I mean? Like, it's comedy making fun of your friends, making fun of the other characters in this universe that have sacrificed their life. Like, one of the biggest things people point to right away is Tony fucking Stark.
yeah, he sacrificed his life.
He sacrificed his life to save the fucking universe. And it's like, you cannot tell me with a straight face that she wouldn't fucking know that. Everybody would fucking know that.
Yeah, and then
And they kind of fucked this up in Doctor Strange too, because when he goes to Universe B, there is a statue of Doctor Strange that straight up says he died fighting Thanos, the world's greatest hero.
Oh, why are we suddenly? Why not even suddenly? What's the deal? Why can't like Tony is dead? Like just
No. Like the statues of Doctor Strange, because
I
in
know.
Universe B, it was Strange who gets the credit, but then you find out the whole anyway. Like, that's not how Strange died. We need to tell you the truth. And that's when they talk to him about how he was. And he's like, well, then why did you put up a fucking statue saying he's a hero? And they're like, sometimes the lie is more valuable than the truth. The world needed a hero. So I don't know, in their universe, Tony Stark just didn't fucking exist, because there was some talk about Tom Cruise getting brought in for a cameo. That didn't fucking happen. So I don't know. But they did get John Krasinski for all of like 2, and it was not great.
And then they turned him into spaghetti.
They really did.
I get it.
It's really bad. Yeah, that whole scene is fucking horrible. And if that was supposedly one of the reshoots, they like took inspiration from No Way Home. It's like, oh, cameos into the movie as possible. It's like, you made the worst possible choices, and you took away the absolute. So it sucks. But no, it's like she's just gonna shit all over the comics. She's gonna shit on fans, and then yeah, you're right. She's gonna go on these dates. Again, this is gonna be a hard sell to your main demographic, and maybe they're trying to shift the demographic. Maybe they're trying to bring, but this isn't how you do it. Because right now the big feminist push is, we don't need a man, or we don't need, we're strong, independent women. That is not the vibe that trailer is putting off.
Yeah, honestly, I've kind of found the idea of her just swiping and, being all focused on that was kind of insulting.
Well, and then on top of all of that, like, you have all of those issues, then you slap on like absolute shit tier CGI. And it's just like, awful. Oh, yeah, it's like, oh dear. So it's like you've got these insulting themes to the male audience. They're going to be turned off by it. You've got these very insulting themes to the female audience that you're trying to go for. So it's like, okay, so the show isn't for dude fans. It's not really for chick fans, unless they're very specific chick fans. Oh, and it's not just for people that are fans of the MCU in general. It's like shit.
I actually have wondered why all the horny jokes aren't pouring in like they would for somebody like Lady Dimitrescu. Like,
well, because here's the difference, right?
Okay.
When they revealed Lady D, number one, aside from like the one person in charge of her design, Capcom had no fucking clue what they were doing. They revealed Lady D on her own, right? Not carrying anybody, not doing a whole bunch of things. It was like a still shot. And it was just one picture of her like towering over other people, and it was just like, oh, holy shit. And that just sort of ties into a lot of, existing like fantasies and kinks and things already. Like she had the Victorian thing going on, which she was a vampire, which a lot of things went into. Then you combine that with the whole like death by snoo element, and it was like, holy shit, she's triggering a whole bunch of buttons all at once. So that's why people were into her. She-Hulk doesn't do that because they went with the more, we'll call it traditional design, where she's kind of a much skinnier version of the Hulk. She's not all, beefcake, which is fine.
Yeah, that's fine. In
I
fact,
would
that's
rather
the way
they
that's the
go
way better
like,
look for her.
yeah, that's fine. However, because the CGI is so bad, she looks improportional. Like it's just off. It doesn't look right. And it's to the point where it starts hitting that where it looks like she's somebody that's been stretched. Like instead of actually doing, like work to make the model, the appropriate proportion and height and everything, because I think she's 7 or 8 feet tall. It looks like somebody put her in Photoshop and just stretched the image. So like her hands look way longer, thinner than supposed to,
I'm
and her legs
posting,
look really skinny. It just doesn't look right.
Yeah.
And the fucked up part about this, right, is there are some people in real life who have done She-Hulk cosplay
who look
that
way
looks
better.
fucking fantastic. And you could have gotten like they did with the original Rigno back in the day. You could have had two separate actresses. You could have had one actress for Jen and then another actress for She-Hulk when she does the transformation. And it would have looked so much better than doing the CGI. And there are cosplayers who, instead of, obviously their cosplay, they don't do CGI. They actually do body paint. And it looks way fucking better than this.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like, you have fucking Disney money. I don't care if you're not getting as much money as like you're still getting more money than most TV. There is no excuse for this shit looking so bad. Like, there's just not. And so it's like you're telling me we're getting rid of Hulk and this is who's going to take over? Nah. And it also feels like an additional slap in the face because at least all of the other characters that got replaced had somewhat of an arc. Right? We got some kind of journey with them. Not with Hulk. Hulk didn't really have an arc.
Well,
Hulk never really got fleshed out as a character.
Because Universal refused to let him do anything. That's why he got
slapped
okay, into
but that's their decision.
No,
you know what I mean?
no,
Like that's
no,
their
yeah.
fault. They could have made the same type of deal and negotiate. Maybe they didn't fight as hard for Hulk. But I saw a post on Facebook where it was like, oh, Mark Ruffalo, we should be celebrating the fact that he made like 10 appearances as the Hulk. And it listed off all of these fucking movies that he's been in. And not one of them was a Hulk movie. Not one. Because he hasn't been in a Hulk movie. He's only been the character in either the Avengers or other people's movies.
Yeah, anytime there's an MCU movie, it's like, oh, where's the Hulk cameo gonna be? 'Cause especially during so let me just the few movies I can think off the top of my head: Iron Man 3, Shang-Chi. Like those are two movies that he just appears in like the end credit scene and just has a conversation. Then he hasn't had his own solo movie.
No, and he's not going to. Because at this point, I'm pretty sure Mark Ruffalo, like I'm pretty sure he said that. Like the whole point of She-Hulk is that they're passing the torch. Like he's basically come out and said that.
Yeah, I posted a picture of both the show, and then here's just I'm wondering if the quality might not be as good. Here's a cosplayer, and that's just her dressed up as like her lawyer outfit, and that's way times better than what fucking Disney is doing.
Yeah, it's legitimately strange. It's really weird. I really hate it. But I mean, this is just what we get. Um, and it's disappointing because you can tell that the person that did that cosplay spent more time, more effort, cared more about the character, you know, cared more about the final product for what was maybe a couple hours to do the photo shoot than Disney, who owns this IP, right? Who owns these characters. And it's like you spent months, if not years, working on this project. And this is what you fucking bring to the table. And it's like, I'm sorry, but there's a large portion of audience that after Endgame, they kind of felt like, okay, we're done.
I feel like that's
And
what I should have
so
done.
and so phase 4 really needed to bring their A game. They really needed to give people a reason to get reinvented. Because a lot of people had kind of checked out. They kind of felt like Endgame was a satisfying conclusion to a very massive, sprawling cinematic universe. Like, okay, that was a good ending. Cool. But everything that's come out in phase 4 has not been anywhere near that level, and it just feels so disjointed. Like even the products that they've been releasing don't feel connected the same way that, like, if you go back and you Captain America, Thor, like those movies felt like they were all leading towards something.
Mm-hmm.
These don't feel like that anymore.
Also, if what chat said is true, that's from what he heard from Midnight's Edge. They could make a Hulk movie. They can't just put Hulk. They just can't put Hulk in the title. And it's like it'd be his. I that wouldn't be his fucking movie then. I'm sorry, no.
I mean, there are ways of working around that. If it's literally just a matter of can't be in the title, I mean, there are ways of doing that where it's, you know. But either way, I mean, it's insulting to me because, like, man, I used to give a shit about these characters. I loved these characters. Phase 1 of the MCU was so fucking amazing. I remember how exciting that phase was. Like, I remember when Iron Man came out, nobody expected that movie to be as good as it was. Like, holy shit,
Yeah, I saw
man.
Iron Man in theaters. That
That movie blew people away because everybody kind of thought it was going to. And then they saw it and they were like, holy shit, this. And then they saw the after credits scene and they were like, holy shit, this is real. Red alert, this is happening. We're getting the goddamn Avengers. Like, buckle the fuck up. And then every movie that came out after that was just crafted with so much love and so much care because they knew, even back then, they knew one misstep was all it was going to take to really fuck things up. And you
yeah,
can say what you will about the first Thor movie, but honestly, it was pretty fucking good compared to like what we got in phase 2 and
Oh
It
yeah.
did what it needed to do. It set him up so that we knew what we were going to be getting in Avengers. And if you look at the character from Thor 1 to the Avengers movie, it tracks. That's
I
all
might
we needed.
I might be one of the only people on the planet that genuinely likes the Incredible Hulk.
Oh, I like the one with Edward Norton. I really
Like,
did. I thought he was a fantastic, and I
what's
liked
beca-
the design of his Hulk way fucking.
his Hulk was not only better looking, it was more comic accurate, which at the time when I saw that movie, that's kind of what I did care about. Not so much now, but still. And I like how he treated the Thor, like how he treated the Hulk. Edward Norton treated the Hulk like it was a fucking monster and a disease. And I always liked that perspective because of all the damage the Hulk has done to his life. Like he's
Yeah,
constantly
and the
on the
thing
run.
is, like with Mark Ruffalo, they kind of jumped straight to the whole Professor Hulk thing, which I mean, fine. That's something that happens in the comic. But again, a lot of that development, a lot of that stuff happened off screen.
Yeah,
And
you
I
can't.
hate that.
Yeah, you
Like, I
cannot do
understand
Professor.
you, even if you want to make the argument that it's like, okay, can't have our solo movie, it's like, okay, then spend 10 minutes and give him a part of somebody else's movie and show the goddamn development. Let me see it somewhere.
Yeah, let
Because
me.
every time he pops up, it's like, what character am I dealing with? What has happened off screen? What changes have occurred? Who even is this guy?
Yeah,
Because by the
it's
time you see him in like Endgame, you're like, who the fuck are you, dude?
and
I
then
don't know this Hulk.
not only that, and apparently in the Shang-Chi post-credit scene, he's just back to Bruce. He's not the Professor, and it's just like, I'm sorry, what happened then? Like,
Well,
that's a massive.
but then in She-Hulk, he's back to being.
Oh.
So I don't know. I genuinely don't know, and that's what I'm saying. It's weird, and so much of it happens off screen. Maybe we'll get some of it in She-Hulk, but at this point, if he really is passing the torch to her, it feels like too little, too late,
Yeah, it's
right?
way too little, too late.
And honestly, I'm a little disappointed that the trailer has gotten so much, bad reaction, because if She-Hulk had been done well and the character had been well received, she would have been an excellent way to bring in the Fantastic Four
Yes, because she
into
has
the
so many
MCU.
interactions with the Fantastic
She
Four.
was on the team for several years. She was actually a member of the Fantastic. It's like, dude, you easily could have had her bring them in and have it be a very like cohesive and non like jarring way to bring those characters in to a modern setting. And unfortunately, because of the negative reaction to the, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I hope the show's good. I really do. I understand not every one of these is going to be a 10, but god damn it, can
Be
I have some
passing.
fucking 5s and 6s? Can I get the occasional 7 or 8? I'm really tired of the 1s and 2s.
Yeah, that's why I think I reacted so well to No Way Home, because No Way Home, while it had its issues, it felt like a gasp of air. But at the same time, how
But
much of
okay,
that
but the
was
problem
Marvel?
is that is really super detached from the MC. Like, I honestly
Exactly.
don't even consider it to be MC. It's really not.
Yeah, it may as well
It,
have been.
which is weird, because like Homecoming and Far From very clearly MCU movies, but No Way Home isn't. Like, it relies so much on MC for all of its emotionally significant.
Yeah, you could almost argue that it's farewell from the MCU.
It kind of is. It's like Sony does Spider-Man better. Fuck you, MCU. Is like that whole movie's vibe. And to be fair, they kind of did.
Yeah, they did.
I
They did
mean, say what you
something.
will about the, you know, Venom 1 and 2 ain't so hot. Morbius is absolute trash. Um, but No Way Home was Rock fucking solid.
How could you say Morbius is trash? It made like $5
It's
trillion.
Morbin time. Shut the fuck up. God damn it, that movie was dog shit.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
Matt Smith danced.
it sucks. You know, I remember a time when I was genuinely smart because you could count on them being quality. You could count on them doing the characters justice, you know, and it's just you can't anymore. The characters aren't even the focus anymore. Like Benedict Cumberbatch said verbatim, I didn't know if my character even had an arc in the film.
And he's the one on the title.
Yeah, it's supposed to be his fucking. It's not, but it's supposed to be. It's really Wanda's movie featuring America Chavez and Strange. That's really the movie. And I for one am fucking tired of the bait and switch. I know Kenobi's going to be the exact same. I'm not excited for that, but I know they're gonna bait and switch whatever her name is. I didn't even pay attention, but the Inquisitor lady or whoever she is, it's gonna be her show. Now, I will give She-Hulk one accolade. If if the trailer is any legitimate indication of what we're going to be getting with the show, at least it had the common courtesy, we'll say, of not pulling a bait and switch. It showed you right up front that this is going to be her show. You know what I mean? Like Moon Knight sold you on this is going to be Moon Knight's show. It wasn't fucking Moon Knight's show. You know, Hawkeye sold you on it being Hawkeye's show. It wasn't. Loki sold you on being Loki's show. It wasn't.
Sylvie's show.
It was Sylvie's show. I mean, the only one that you kind of can't make that argument is Captain Falcon, the Uber simp.
No,
but
it
that
may as
had
well
its
been the
own
Carly movie. I mean, the Carly show.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's weird. Like that one's kind of in its own level of weird. It's like Captain America literally. I don't know how you can spin that in a positive light, but it's fucking insane. And that's what I'm saying. And maybe it comes down to people just don't pay attention. They literally just want some flashing images on the screen, you know, and they just don't think about it. But I'm like, we're beyond that sort of like, well, subtle and you really have to pay attention to get it. It's like, no, well past that. This shit is like coming out of the screen and smacking you in the face. Like, do you get it? Do you get it? And that's why I'm just like, how can they not notice it? And that's why a movie like Doctor Strange, as big a, premiere as it had an 82% drop between its first and second week. Because I guarantee you, everyone that went and saw the movie the first went and told their friends and family and whatever. Because these studios always like to dismiss or underestimate word of mouth. But word of mouth has and always will be the most powerful form of advertising.
Word of mouth killed fucking BVS.
Yeah, and it basically killed Doctor Strange. I guarantee you that is the majority of the reason why people went out and saw this movie and left going, what the fuck was that? And they told their friends and family, like, you need to skip this one. And
I'm kind of with Nerdrotic. There needs to be an absolute flop. They
kind of need that because they really need to understand that the decisions they are not, like, people are not going to just keep doing it. You know what I mean? There's just no way that this is sustainable. But unfortunately, until they have a hard flop or multiple flops in a row, they're not going to learn the lesson.
I don't know how Eternals isn't counted as a flop. I don't know how, because don't know anyone. I do not know anyone in my life that has actually seen it. Like, I've talked to people like, "Hey, have you seen Eternals?" No. It's like, who has? Who's seen this movie, and how did it still somehow make a how did it still come out positive?
Well, that's the problem, right? Is these movies tend to get enough of a bump on the debut weekend, opening weekend. Like Doctor Strange, for all of the problems that probably already made its money and then some. So even if it absolutely tanks from here on out, it'll still be considered a box office success.
Mm,
It's not doing No Way Home numbers. It's not even doing like Captain Marvel numbers. But part of the problem is after all the COVID shit, they've kind of lowered the bar as well on like what they qualify as a financial because it used to be there for a while. They wanted over a billion. Like if they didn't get over a billion, it was considered to be a flop. But now it's like they keep moving the goalpost a little bit because like they'll get 500 600 million and they'll it's a box office record and it's like yeah by COVID standards maybe but not pre-COVID. Like you're not doing fucking Endgame numbers. Do you remember how long that fucking movie was in theaters?
it almost, like, for a good number of time, it beat fucking Avatar until James
Yeah,
Cameron pretty
there
much
was
did
even that
a.
joke about them basically bringing Endgame back into theaters one more time so they could literally steal the record from Avatar.
Well, they did, and then James Cameron just had like a private showing, and then it went right back up, and it's like, okay, asshole. Just,
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because I can't think of a single movie in Phase 4 that has done any of those kind of numbers. Now, I will say that out of all of the Phase 4, I'm sure Doctor Strange has probably made the most money because this is the one that even after like Shang-Chi was nobody knew who the fuck Shang-Chi was. Nobody knew who the fuck the Eternals were. People were somewhat invested in the Widow movie, but it was a little bit too little too late, so I don't think it got the turnout that they were hoping for. But there was also the big, issue with they did that one on streaming as well as theater release. So we don't really know, if they had done theater only, what the numbers would have.
is the
Neither here nor there.
actually, I was about to bring up. Has that court case ever been revealed who won? Because to this day I
It's
keep thinking.
honestly they probably settled out. I don't know. I'd have to.
I'm
I would be terribly surprised if they didn't, because that would be the primary reason that it just did. Because if they settled outside of court, everybody would have shut up. Both sides. They'd have been like, "We're not talking about this." But she basically would have gotten a payment from Disney, for breach of contract or whatever. But it would have been for an undisclosed amount, and we wouldn't have heard anything about
Oh yeah,
it.
they settled. I'm just looking
Yep.
at it now, and it's like, oh damn it all, Scarlett, you
Yep.
really could have, Scarlett, you could have actually taken them to the fucking.
Well, theoretically, she did, but that's why she'll probably never work again. Like they'll never cast her for Black Widow again because she sued them, so she's done. But this is the one movie that everybody was kind of looking to seeing because this was supposed to be the movie that really like set up and established what we were doing in Phase 4. Because this was the first one that it's like we're not really a slew of new characters. Like this is taking existing from the Infinity Saga and pushing the ball forward. It's like, okay, we're actually getting into the meat and potatoes, right? Well, not really. Because for one, if you haven't seen WandaVision, you are not going to have any fucking clue. And I know that seems like a weird thing to bring up considering this is the MCU, but this is the first time that a separate Disney Plus tie-in TV show directly leads into the events of a movie. I
Okay,
mean, like literally
I'm
one ends and the other one picks up right where it left off.
I'm actually glad you made that distinction of Disney Plus, because a lot of people say that it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that leads into Age of Ultron. They're the ones that find out about Loki's scepter.
I feel like a lot of that was after the fact, though. Like, I think all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. happened after those movies, didn't they?
No, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was happening pretty much, it started actually, like, right after Avengers 1. And then...
I remember Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. not being particularly good. I tried to get into it because at the time I was actually into it, and I couldn't. Like, it was really bad.
Oh, I didn't watch it either. It's just everybody... I keep... Anytime I bring up, like, oh,
But
show's
here's the
never
thing, right?
interacted
Here's
with
the thing.
movies.
You can watch Age of Ultron
And not know.
having not seen that, and you'll still understand what's going on, right? But in this, like literally the core of the is WandaVision. If you haven't seen WandaVision, you are not going to understand, because had you not watched WandaVision, the last time you would have seen Wanda in an MCU would have been Endgame.
Who, by the way,
So
acts like a completely different character. Because I think it was Y.A.R.P brought up how at the end of Endgame, Wanda looks like she's made peace with everything. And then...
oh, she keeps making peace. That's what she does. She made peace in Endgame, then she made peace again in one, and then she made peace again in the multiverse of. It's like Thor but worse.
So you're telling me Thor's gonna have to constantly keep figuring out who he is, and Wanda's gonna need to keep getting over Vision.
Oh no, she's over Vision completely. She doesn't give a fuck about Vision. It's all imaginary.
Who have no father.
Who have no like, that's the thing too. It's like she views all of these different multiverses, dozens of them, hundreds of them, and in not one of them is Vision shown, mentioned. The only time he comes up in is Doctor Strange asks her, "What do you know about the multiverse?" And her response is, "Well, Vision had his theory." End of sentence.
That's
End of mention of Vision. Never comes up again.
That's so bizarre, because when Wanda was ending the illusion, she didn't have one fight. Like, she said goodnight to the kids, and as the illusion was shrinking away, but she had like an extra conversation with the Vision illusion.
Yeah, it's almost like Vision was her fucking.
Like, and
but
that's...
we can't worry about that right now because we've got girl boss power moments to deal with. Fuck Vision, apparently. I don't know. It's weird. It makes no sense. It's insulting to the character. It doesn't make any sense for Wanda that Vision wouldn't be here in any way, shape, or like, even if they had done something kind of like Batman and the Joker from the Arkham games, where she just maybe has like Vision's voice in her head, or she hallucinates and is seeing Vision because she's fucked with grief. I don't know. Pick one. Do something.
That, or better
Do
yet,
anything.
That, or better yet, during the scene when she's fighting the Wanda of that universe, there's Vision. Like,
Yeah,
and
like
both
he literally
parents
just
defend their
opens the
kids.
door, and he's like maybe got his arm full of groceries or something. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be Vision. It can actually just be Paul Bettany, like in his human form, like he was in the first few episodes of WandaVision. So you don't even have to do the makeup and all that. In, and he's got stuff in his hands, and he like sets his keys down, and he's like, "Oh, holy shit, what's going on?" That's it. That's all you had to do. 2 fucking seconds.
No, it would have been too expensive to get the actor in, and I hate this fucking like meta bullshit that gets in the way.
No, fuck
Actually,
that. You've got Disney money. Shut the
yeah,
fuck up. You
yeah,
have no excuse. None.
yeah, because then that's what creates issues with like the whole why isn't Doctor Strange in WandaVision? They just didn't want to have Benedict Cumberbatch in, and it's
Oh,
like,
no, didn't you hear Feige? He said why Doctor Strange wasn't in one.
it's because they didn't want. I'm trying to remember like something about the fact he's a man.
He's a white man.
Why is this the?
And here's the
How do
thing,
these
right?
people write anything?
This is Kevin fucking Feige, right? This is the head of the MCU, right? He's the guy steering the boat. And he thinks of Doctor Strange, one of your like most relevant characters, especially post Phase 3, as just another white man. Like, how fucking disrespectful can you be? Like, if this is what you really think of the character, step the fuck aside, dude. You're done.
I just constantly wonder how these people can function in a day-to-day life when this is the only thing they ever think about. Because
Oh, they don't.
when you and me were growing up, this was not a fucking issue. Like this constant focus on race, gender, any of that shit, or sexuality. I just woke up and I'd either play some video if it was a weekend, I'd play some video games, or I'd eat a bowl of cereal. I wouldn't dare think about this kind of stuff. How do people make eggs like in this type of world? How can fucking Kevin Feige like just open up a carton of fucking eggs?
He's already passed the torch. He's not even hands on, and that's part of the reason Phase 4 has been as fucked up as it. Because originally he was going to pass the reins to James Gunn, but if you recall, James Gunn got canceled. So when that happened, he passed the reins to what is her fucking I want to say Victoria Alonso.
Hold on. Marvel.
She was the one who was like, they shouldn't be the X-Men, they should be the X-People.
Can you give me the name again?
Victoria Alonso, I think is her name. She's the one who apparently was massively have a child Doctor Strange too. Because she wanted the representation. And it's like, look, I don't care if your story features white people, black people, brown people, whatever. I don't care if they're gay, straight, trans, whatever. Give me a good fucking story.
Yeah. It's
and here's the thing, like they wouldn't call it virtue signaling or pandering if it was done well. They call it that because you are making these characters that if I was black, if I was gay, I would be insulted that this is what you think I want. Like, ooh, wow, there's somebody on the screen who vaguely. Why do I care? If they're a piece of shit.
Actually, hold on. That Sarah, what'd you think of the whole like America Chavez having two moms?
Sorry, I was in the middle of eating. I didn't have a problem with it. What do you want me to say?
People just
okay.
losing their fucking minds just because she's got
There
two
was
moms.
no problem with it. It had zero impact on the story. It was basically irrelevant. It made no difference. That's my issue, right? They literally just did it so they could be like, look, we did the thing. Which, to be fair, that's comic accurate. So you can say that they were being accurate to the comics. I don't have a problem with that. But her having two moms and wearing her little rainbow pin on her jacket has no bearing in the actual story. It doesn't change anything. It's not emotionally significant. It's not like there's and they're having like a good conversation or developing her as a character. It's not. You don't get any fucking dialogue. And I'm sorry, this may be comic accurate, but shit, it's fucking like I almost lost it in the goddamn theater. Her tragic backstory
Is that a bee landed on
is
her?
that a bee landed on her and she got scared. So she opened up a portal that sucked her two moms in and sent to some universe that she's like, I don't know where they went. And it's like, oh my God, are you fucking serious? And I know it's unintentional, but god damn it. The timing of that and the fucking Amber Heard, like, my dog stepped on a bee meme. I was like, holy shit.
It doesn't even sting her. It just lands on her.
It just lands on her and she freaks the fuck out. Scared, she opens the portal and they just get zipped away. And it's like, that's fucked up. Yeah, I mean, but that's one of those things where it's like, it's so much of an accident that I don't see how you could legitimately think that's because she's like, I blame myself. And it's like, how? You've admitted multiple times that you have no control over your. It's just triggered by being afraid. So a bee landed on you through no fault of your own. That's not something you can control. And you got scared. Something you also cannot control. Like, I get it. It's a bum hand. Like, it sucks, but it's not your fault.
Maybe it's because I've worked outside for a good chunk of my life. I've never understood why people are afraid of bees.
Because they can fucking sting you, dude.
Don't.
They typically don't, but they can. And it's not one of those things you. Also, do you want to know how you figure out if you're allergic to? You got to be stung by a bee.
Oh, that is fair, because I keep forgetting that not everybody goes through that weird allergy test things where they keep pricking you.
They can't determine if you're allergic to bees with.
I thought they.
It's weird. The only way for you to determine if you're allergic to bees is to get stung by a bee.
That's actually okay. Never mind. That is kind of horrifying.
And that's not one of those things you want to fucking gamble on.
Yeah, you don't want to gamble on that. Fair enough.
So
I
most
guess
people just prefer not to fuck with it. Like, I'm fine with bees as long as they're over there. You know what I mean? It's like spiders. As long as you're over there, I'm fine. But as soon as you touch me or you come in my house, we're done. You've crossed the line. You must be killed.
I think it's because not only have I worked outside, I think the second I was told, like, oh yeah, they'll leave you alone if you don't do anything, I think that fear that could have developed was just nipped in the bud. So if a bee was sitting on me right now, I would not move.
I wouldn't move either, but I would be like, so I'd be sweating up a storm, and
Yeah, that's it. It's sort of it's like a primal fear. It's ingrained in our lizard brains that these things can hurt us and it can potentially lead to death. Because you got to think, like, bunch of fairly unevolved humans hanging around, picking berries and shit, and they just see this tiny little bee sting one of their homies, and he just fucking dies.
Oh yeah,
it's like, oh Jesus, that's terrifying.
Well, that now you just made me think, like, who was the first guy that realized milk was good?
Who's the first guy who looked at a beehive and said, I bet tasty shit in there?
No, they saw a bear do that, and then they saw, like, a scrap, and they'll be like, I wonder what... I bet that's what happened. I bet that was a scavenger shit.
I bet there's something fucking delicious in there.
Yeah, they saw the bear go, like, lose their fucking mind, and then it's like, alright, the bear's gone. What is this stuff? They lick it, and it's like, the bear's got a point.
I mean, the first guy who figured out parrots could talk. Just walking through the jungle like, oh, this is great. And fucking parrot repeats, what the fuck?
I think it
Devil
was
bird.
I think there was a comic I saw, like a meme or something. The guy who first discovered milk. It's just him staring at like an udder of a cow, and then it's just him looking back and forth. There's no way that's not accurate.
So yes, avoid these writing tropes when
Yes.
you're starting your story, when you're planning things out, when you're designing your world, you're creating your characters, which I highly recommend you spend a lot of time on those things before you try to really dive into just, busting out chapter 1.
And I'd argue if you are gonna use these tropes, you fucking think it through to its maximum fucking like end
Oh
point.
yeah, I would use these kind of things in the event of the only, and even then I would try to find something else. Like I said, the way that I have done it is that the cost of doing this resurrection is like disgusting. You know what I mean? Like it's not something that anyone other than a villain, a sociopath would even consider.
Yeah,
So it
and
makes it to where it's like, okay, so that villain did it, but clearly nobody else would. And it's something that even if the heroes were informed of it and they were like, oh yeah, this option totally exists out there, as soon as they heard the cost attached to it, they'd be like, oh fuck no, yeah, we're not doing
I actually just thought about this because people probably need to hear it. Could you dispel the whole Aerith could have been resurrected with a phoenix down when Sephiroth stabbed her? Because it's a fucking meme, and it's like I know it's not true because
Well, it's weird. Um, the way that game's mechanics work is like it kind of differs between like the different Final Fantasies. Sometimes they refer to status being KO'd, which would be knocked out, which is not the
right.
same as dead. But essentially, it's kind of colloquially accepted that when your HP reaches 0, you are dead. So the idea is that they can use a Phoenix down and now. There's a couple theories about why in this particular case she can't be resurrected. Some of it has to do with the fact that she's in a very specific religious location and she's praying. She's also not strictly human. So there is a part of her that is very, very connected to this place and the life stream in general. So the idea is that she's praying and she's connecting with the ancients and becoming one with. So her dying is kind of the whole. She goes there to die. Um, she also loses her special materia when she gets stabbed. That basically is like the materia that you use to save the planet.
Okay.
But the whole point is that she becomes one with the planet so that when the meteor planet, she basically stops it. But she had to become one with the live stream. So I always took it as she knew she had to die in order to do that. And she was like, a lot of people see it as she went to this grotto to pray for like guidance or to pray for, to find a way to stop the meteor. And it's like, I don't think so. I think she went there to pray to accept what it is she had to do. She knew that becoming one with the live stream was that it was going to work. But obviously she's very young. She's very attached to your team at this point. It's like she doesn't want to leave all these people behind, so she's trying to accept the fact that if she wants to protect all of these people that she cares, she's got to sacrifice her life to do that. And she knows that if she tells any of them this, they will try to stop her doing it. So she runs off on her, and it's one of those like go after her, but you get there too late to stop it. There's also some theories about like Sephiroth's sword having, particular abilities attached to it and it being like a legendary sword, this and that. But Honestly, I think it has more to do with her than it does with him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it became a meme because a mechanic in the game to resurrect people. And I know you can argue it's like, well, it's KO, not death, and it's like, yeah, but it's called a Phoenix Down. Like,
Right.
you get the implication. There's even a magical spell called Life, and that doesn't you can't use that on her either. Oh, and pro tip, whatever you have equipped on her when she runs off, say goodbye to that gear. So make sure you unequip her shit before.
Thanks. I'll keep that in mind
Yeah,
in
because
1997.
yeah, she fucking first time I played that game, I had like this really piece on her where like my materia was getting double XP. I was like, yeah, this is awesome.
And
And it had
then
like a bunch
dead.
of slots on it, and then she died, and I was like, son of a bitch.
I didn't realize that was the thing because I was so used to like how.
Well, and that was back in the day when like New Game Plus was a thing, and like there was only one of this item that you could get in the whole game. So I was like, fuck, it's just gone. No, it's Resurrection is something that works better in video games. But even then, I mean, for the sake of this, you have to be careful with it. I mean, for obviously the Eris thing is a perfect example of that because that has created so much fucking confusion and argument over. Oh, why couldn't they just bring her back? And it's because not this time. She died in a fucking cutscene. So that's how that works.
I hope the remake. Hopefully, they'll address that better.
Don't, don't, don't. They don't. They've already kind of fucked that one up, and I'm not happy with it.
I haven't looked into the remake that much at all.
Dude, I was fucking in love with the game like the last 20 minutes, and then I'm like, ooh boy, we've made some decisions here that so you can definitely tell that the guy who did King got brought in on this one because holy shit, there's some Kingdom Hearts shenanigans going.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm disclosure. I don't hate Kingdom Hearts. It's just one of those things that it's like if you told me to play it, I would tell you no.
It's just got a very, very specific style to it. And it works for Kingdom Hearts, but it doesn't work for everything. It's not particularly great for Final Fantasy VII. Okay? Okay.
I understand the entirety of the Metal Gear Solid timeline. I really do not need to look at Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, and see, imagine if like imagine if they just dropped in like fucking Kingdom Hearts bullshit into the Metal Gear time currently. You know what I mean? Like that's basically what they did with Final Fantasy. Like we have all this established shit, and then just suddenly it's like, oh, no, we're gonna drop in a bunch of Kingdom. It's like, but why? You didn't have to do that. Like there's already a lot of stuff to cover. There's already a lot of. Nope. Okay, never mind. Got it. We're good.
I think that about does it.
Yeah, it's that's a fair take. We encourage writing. We encourage going and seeing good movies and having good stories. Just especially if you're starting out, try to avoid diving into these tools. Or if you're going to, at least give it some serious thought.
Like, I may not be a professional writer, but I think at the end of the day, I would just tell somebody, if you have an idea,
Dude,
just think it through. Don't
at this point, the term professional writer fucking meaningless.
It
Dude,
really is.
it really is. Like, honestly, the term professional in general is fucking meaningless. Professional just means you're being paid to do it. So if somebody gives you $1 to write something, guess what? You're a professional fucking writer.
It
If you've got an idea, go for it. Don't give up on your dreams. Knuckle down, write. Try to
yeah,
do it every day if you can. If you can't do it every day, try to do it multiple times a week. If you can't do it multiple times a week, try to do it once a week. Whatever you do, don't give up. I've been working on my shit since I was in high school. For those of you that don't know, I graduated in 2007. So fuck me, I've been
I
at this for like 15 years plus,
I
okay?
wasn't
And
even
I
in
don't
high
got
school.
anything published yet, but that's okay. I've got a lot of things that are in various stages of completion. Some are still in outline and rough draft stages. Some are very close to being done. Don't give up. If you get stuck, if you hit a brick wall, maybe bounce over to another idea, but whatever you don't stop writing. If that's what you want to do, if you've got that creative bug, if you feel like you've got a story to tell, tell it.
And that actually might just go above just writing in general. If you've just got some creative outlet, you fucking make it happen.
Yeah, if you paint, if you draw, whatever it is that you do it. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't be embarrassed of it. I don't care if all you can draw is a fucking stick figure. Draw that stick figure. Be a badass. Like, just don't give up on your fucking dreams, you know? Be positive. Go out there, do your things. Because let's face it, all this shit that's being churned out, it's garbage. It's garbage. They're doing prequel after prequel, sequel after sequel, reboot after and people are tired of it, you know. And just like people are turning to places like YouTube, you know, for their news, they're also turning to places like YouTube and Twitch and things for their entertainment as well. So there are ways to get your story or your art out there where you don't have to go through these fucking companies anymore. There are
Or
communities, there are websites, there are pages, there's discords, there's all kinds of ways to get your stuff out there that doesn't involve going through some massive fucking studio conglomerate.
better yet, even like a fucking school. Like
There's
it's
self-publishing now. There's you can do self-publishing, you know, do digital only. You can do like ebooks. There are more options now than there ever have been before. So as bad as things are, this is the best time for you to possibly. And frankly, we need more original content. People are desperate. People want to see new content. They don't want to see these sequels and these reboots and all this shit anymore. Tired of it. They're burnt out. They need new, they need original. And I'll tell you this, they'll take original that's like a 5 or a 6 over this shit that's a reboot or a remake or a sequel that's like a 4. You know,
and
it's like people are that desperate. Quality of stuff getting bad. The bar between what counts as a professional and an amateur has almost disappeared.
yeah,
Now is the time.
and it's kind of one of those things, as I was bringing up, how you almost don't even need that much training.
No, you don't need
Patrick
any.
Patrick Willems went to fucking film school, and I think we under like our collective group somehow knows more than him. We understand how
Yeah, just
story
because you
function
went to
works.
school does not mean you understand. That just means you paid and went to school. That
Exactly.
doesn't mean that you know more about this than I do.
Yeah, and that's
And
something.
you can evidence that by what, right? You look at their
Mhm.
content. You know, it's the whole judge them by the content of their character. Doing. I'm judging them by the content that they've put out. This is the quality of the art that they're putting out. I'm sure the people that designed She-Hulk went to school. I'm not impressed. And I don't need to go to school to have that opinion.
Exactly.
I
It's
don't need to go to visual effects, look at that CGI and go, that's terrible. I have eyeballs. I have all the
I
qualifications I need.
I don't need to go to film school to understand when editing is shit. Like,
Exactly. You can just look at it and go, well, I've seen good editing, seen bad editing, so therefore I have experience. And I've watched a fuckload of movies. I've played a lot of games. I've been around and involved in storytelling all my life. It's been a passion of mine for as long as I can remember. To me, that's more valuable than school. And I didn't need to pay anybody for that fucking experience.
It's
But I know the difference between a story that is something that's going to inspire me, get me emotionally invested, get me to laugh, get me to cry. These stories don't do that. And you have to ask yourself as an audience, why is that? What's different about these? You know, why is it when you see that scene of Tony and he's about to snap his fingers, why do you get choked up? It's not because of Endgame. It's because of everything that came before. It's because of every building block that went into building Tony up as the most solid character in the MCU.
Yeah, when he's about to snap, you're not thinking about him flicking Ant-Man's butt in the like a couple hours ago. You're thinking of him when he was in the cave, slamming that hammer against the very first helmet. You're thinking about when he was on that stage with that card and he goes, "I am Iron Man." You're thinking of that shit.
Yeah, the Endgame was not a great movie, but it had the payoffs for all of the other films leading up to that moment. All 23 of them. You know, this was the culmination of everything we had been working towards over the course of 10 years. And that's why even people who don't particularly like the movie look back on it fondly.
Oh yeah,
Because god damn it, like you may not agree with every time travel, you may not have liked all the character decisions, but the payoffs were pretty fucking solid.
Oh yeah, I think Endgame is a tismy piece of shit, but the second Cap holds out that arm and it says Avengers Assemble, it's like, yeah, this is
Yeah,
this
and
is
that's why that movie made bajillions of fucking dollars, okay? That's why that movie was so fucking, because everybody who had ever watched any of the Marvel movies went to see that fucker in the theater because they wanted to see how this story ended. And it's a fucking shame that once that was over, they didn't end it there. They kept going. And I would have been fine if they had kept going and they actually had a story to tell. But even after all of the TV shows and all of the movies that they've released so far, I can't fucking tell you what story they're trying to tell. I don't fucking know. I don't even have a clue. Like by the end of phase 1, you could kind of tell where we were going.
it's weird when the people that I know for just eating the Marvel slop, when even they were saying that after Endgame, that Marvel should have taken a good 5 years to just figure their shit out. No movies. Even Mr. Sunday Movies said that. And we both know how fucking tismy he can be at times.
Well, the point is they needed to start planning this before
Yeah, they
the
did.
Infinity Saga ended. Like this needed to be roadmapped out while they were working on phase 3 or even phase 2. Like this somebody needed to be thinking past that finish line.
That or
Because
God.
it's like, yeah, I'm glad that you have some on getting, you know, this first arc done and out. That's great. But somebody needed to go, okay, then what? Because especially since Feige basically back, they were really left stranded. They didn't know what the fuck they were going to do, and it's very clear that there is no road for them to follow at this point. There is no goal that they are working towards.
There's
I mean,
the
I'm
only
pretty
product.
sure. I'm pretty sure Thor is the last film entry for Phase 4.
Let me take a look.
I don't think there's anything. I think it's She-Hulk, Love and Thunder are the end of Phase 4. Because I think Guardians 3 isn't coming out until next year. I
Excuse
remember
me.
seeing like a Phase 3 breakdown picture, and I don't remember seeing Guardians.
So no, we're not even close to the end of being done with Phase 4.
What's left?
Loki Season 2, What If Season 2, uh, Ms. Marvel,
Oh, that's gonna be a fucking train wreck.
we've got Echo, we've got Secret Invasion, we've got, Armor Wars, we've got Agatha, House of Harkness, we've got...
I'm not sure I believe you that this is all thing, right? Go back and look at Phase 1, right? Because that's ultimately what you would be comparing Phase 4 to, because it's doing the same job, right? It's starting the phase and it's setting up all of your major players. So Phase 1, you have Iron Man, you have Captain America the First Avenger, you have Thor. I think a lot of people include the Universal Incredible Hulk, technically
Yep.
not an MCU product.
Anyone who says Incredible Hulk is not part of Phase 1 is fucking weird. It is.
And then after that, I
it,
think you went straight into Avengers, didn't you?
yes, it was Iron Man 2, Thor, First Avenger, Incredible Hulk, then Avengers. Then Phase 2 began with Iron Man 3. Gross.
Yeah. So my point is, right, Phase 1, you can basically count on one hand. And you're telling me that all of that shit you just rattled off is all part of Phase 4. And what you rattled off does not even include all of the things that already come out.
Oh, yeah. I missed a few, by the way. I missed Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which is supposed to come out this year. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
So you're telling me all of this shit is Phase 4.
Yep.
And like I said, at this point, we still don't even know what we're leading towards. And I think that's one of the main reasons people were disappointed with Doctor Strange, is because like that was the first one that was kind of like, okay, we're in main character territory. This, picking up the pace, filling in some gaps, like really give us something to sink our teeth into. And it did. So it's a mess. I think what it makes me think of the most is desperation. This is Disney just taking the shotgun approach and throwing shit at the wall and seeing what they can get to stick, because they don't know where they want to go. There is no plan.
And it
So
also...
they're just trying. They're just pumping out content until something takes off, and then they'll put all their eggs in that one basket and be like, "Yeah, this was our plan all along."
You mean like how they did with Mandalorian?
Pretty much. I can guarantee you they did not expect that show to succeed.
Oh,
You know
well,
how I know? You know how I know?
the Baby
Because there
Yoda
was
toys.
no Baby Yoda toys. There
Yes,
was
we both...
no fucking merch for Baby Yoda. If they thought that show had any chance of success, there would have been Baby Yoda merch backed up well before that show.
Before episode 1 was even like fully done airing, like that first hour, like between midnight and 1, there would have been a bunch of Baby Yoda merch, and there was none.
There was none. They had no idea that show was going to be a zero. But it's weird, right? Because when you think of Disney, it's almost synonymous with merchandising, and yet they seem to consistently make really, really bizarre merchandise. Like they had no Baby Yoda merch, right? For
Mm-hmm.
Encanto, They had no merchandise for, oh fuck, I forgot her name. Damn it.
Oh, main
The
character lady,
sister. No, the sister.
strong, muscle
Yes.
waifu.
Yes. There was no fucking merch for that. But there was plenty of merch for the beautiful flowery sister, which almost nobody wanted because her character in the movie is like a massive cunt. So nobody wanted her. Everybody, I think her name is Louisa. Everybody wanted Louisa, right? Everybody wanted the strong woman. She has the best song in the movie, objectively. Fight me. She
Oh
has the
no,
best
I agree with
characterization.
you. I've heard it.
No, I'm
It's
talking to the audience. Fight me, fuckers. She's amazing. She's the best character. And there was all of the moms, all the girls wanted to go buy that toy. Didn't exist. And that's just it. It's like you have no concept. Like you are so out of touch for a company that is so like you've been doing this merchandising shit for so long that you would think by this point you would just kind of accident your way into it. And
and they're
yet they
not.
keep fucking it up. And it's like, this is your one job.
And not only that, with the bets they keep making, as you were bringing up, they keep betting on the wrong thing. Like Galaxy's Edge. Galaxy's Edge is entirely leaning on the sequels, and also a $6,000 hotel is leaning on the sequels. And it's just like, nah. But I bet you so many people would have fucking gone if it was Mandalorian themed. If it was that one planet from season 1 he went to all the time. Navarro.
Yeah. Or if it was OT,
Yeah, fuck
you
it.
get so many people.
If Galaxy's Edge was fucking Mos Eisley, it would have sold out even more so than it already did. Well, that's ugh. I walked into that fucking trap because
You did.
Because it sold out regardless. Because for some reason, not for some reason, it's fucking Star Wars. Which used
But see,
to
this is
mean
the problem,
something.
you know? That's the problem. It used to mean something. It used to. It doesn't anymore. You know? I start thinking of all the franchises that, and it's just like, man, they're all dead. You know? The most Star Trek show I've seen in the last is the fucking Orville.
Speaking of the Orville, are you excited with New Horizons or whatever they're calling it?
Cautiously optimistic. I mean, I'm sad that it took this long to get it off. I'm so starved for good content. I'm willing to give it a shot because the first 2 seasons were good.
I need to finish season 2. I stopped like halfway through. I think because of the move or something.
So, I mean, Star Trek is dead. They're parading around its corpse. Star Wars is dead. Alien and Predator are both dead. Rocky's dead. Just, all these franchises that we grew up with, raised on, all of these sort of like safety zones and islands that we used to escape to when we were having a bad day, they're gone. They don't exist anymore. And we wouldn't have that big of a problem, because the go-to answer is it's like, well, it's just not. And it's like, okay, that's fine. If it was just one thing, fine. But it's like all of our things. There is nothing sacred anymore. Like if they had taken Star Wars, but they had left us Star Trek, or vice versa. But they took both. Then they took Doctor Who. They every franchise, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Wheel of Time, all of them, they're not willing to stop at just one. And so it's like, man, it's so hard getting invested in anything because I just know that as soon as whatever it is becomes popular, fuck it up.
Yeah, it's kind of like how we reacted when we heard they're making a Nobody 2. It's like, no, the first movie was good enough. Like, you don't because it's just more chances for them to ruin it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate and it really sucks.
There's not
Maybe
even
it'll show my age a little. I remember in like there was actually a term nerd cred, and like being a nerd and enjoying these kind of things actually meant something. Like it wasn't something that you wore like a badge of honor because it was something you had to kind of hide and keep amongst your friends. Like it wasn't something that you were proud about. And it's like it was something that you clung to because man, when you finally made a friend who was into these other things, y'all had so much fucking fun talking about them for hours and hours on end. But it was okay that you weren't popular because you didn't care. You were having fun. You had these things all to yourself. It was like a secret club. It was great. You felt special. You felt unique. And now I don't. Because all of these things that I used to treasure special for being a part of have been ripped away from me. They've been shoved into this corporate processor and regurgitated out for the general. And then because I have the gall to say that this slurry is gross and I don't want any part of it, I'm the bad guy. And that's fucking shit. You know? And like I said, it's every single one by one by one.
Yeah, and it's not even you can't even rely on the good old like just watch the stuff before it got bad, because they've like these companies have all found ways to fuck with the thing.
Oh, they go out of their way to damage the original source material.
Oh yeah. I at least have, I try my best to still remain that comfort zone of like I still got the OT, when it's like no, Solo fucked with the OT by shoving L3 into the fucking Falcon.
Yeah. Well, remember, if you're rewatching Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, remember the only reason the Predator is there hunting Spec Ops guys is because they have autism.
Oh my god.
That's why Arnie rees at the fucking. It's not because he's a warrior, it's because he's autistic.
And I hate the description for what they did for like Prey. They're going like, this lady is gonna challenge her tribe's gender norms, and it's just like, why again, why is this the only way you people function? Why can't I just watch an alien just want to fucking fight people because it's fucking rad?
No,
Like,
I'm not allowed to do that.
Like, and also, I you cannot convince me that these ain't like, because this is like some 100 years ago, and you can't tell me that if this Predator brought his plasma caster, there's no way these humans are gonna win. He wins by default.
She's literally got a bow and arrow in the trailer.
Yeah, so you cannot tell me like, I thought the Predators during this time period, they're like, oh, I probably shouldn't bring the plasma caster. It would be unfair, and the only thing I care about is having a good hunt, not fucking autism.
Nope, they're there for autism because remember, they got to survive that.
All right. And then Alien, they're doing the thing of like, this is if our corporate world of today never changed.
Yeah,
it's like
unions, man. That's what we need. We need to unionize because labor and workers' rights, and that's what Aliens is all about, right? It's not about dick monsters and literal rape.
Nope, it's not what fucking Alien is about. Terminator, they're just gonna start the movie. They're just gonna cut John's head off this time with a saw.
Oh, they're just gonna like kill Linda Hamilton and just fucking die.
Sometimes I do wonder, like, why do we like it when actors do something like the Mark Hamill thing where like I fundamentally disagree with how you treated the character, but then at the same time, Mark Hamill has very much fallen in line. It's
Well,
just like,
I don't think he had a choice, to honestly, on that one.
well, yeah,
Because you could see in the initial interviews and when he first started the press tour, he was very unhappy.
oh yeah,
And
and then
it was
him,
kind of sad. Like it was really depressing to see him so distraught over what they had done to his character. Because I get it, it's George Lucas's character or Disney's character, however you want to slice it. But god damn it, he has played that character for so long, and it's been such a core part of his fucking identity that everywhere he goes, he is recognized as Luke Skywalker. It and he's been a good sport about it for all these years too. He's always gone out of his way to be kind to his fans and to be super supportive and appreciative. He never got shitty with people about it. The way that, like,
Harrison Ford.
let's be real, Harrison Ford was a fucking dick. He hates Star Wars fans.
And
And it's like,
I've always wondered, is that just because he's an old fart, or do you think he genuinely? Because you see moments where it's like I could tell he genuinely like he's
well,
giving his
first of
heart
all,
and soul.
he's kind of an asshole anyway. Like, that's just who he is. Second of all, he always thought Star Wars was beneath. Like, that was, he was slumming it, for that. I think honestly he just used bang Carrie Fisher, to be real. Like, that was his thing. But no, he always felt, super shitty towards the fans. He always resisted, and Mark Hamill never did. So to watch someone that has just been so interactive and so supportive with the fans over the years, sitting there talking about how they did his character dirty, and then basically to see them kind of come up and whisper in his, hey, knock it the fuck off. And then you can kind of see it on his face. Like, his face just changes. And it's heartbreaking.
It is.
And you can just see the tone. All the
nothing.
subsequent interviews, he's very, like, restrained. He's very just kind of sad and gross. And it's like, dude, what? Fuck. He's like a kicked puppy.
Nothing is sadder than that post first viewing of Last Jedi, and you just see Mark just in that chair, just looking like he just watched like a kid get fucking shot.
Well, yeah, because to him, that's not Luke. That's not Luke on that screen. And I can imagine while they're shooting, being like, that's not something Luke would do. And it's that same shit that pisses me off so much when you see, like, those moments of cardboard cutout Luke in Mandalorian. Because don't get me wrong, that's not Luke either. But we're so desperate to see Luke again and to see him be Luke again that people ate that shit up.
Yeah, and I think that might be why I retreat to the old EU books so harshly, because I was just re-listening to one of the books, and Luke is having like this big epic fight with his nephew, and he's almost about to kill him, but his son, who's all tied up, he's like, let me do it, I deserve it, I should be the one to kill him. And Luke stops everything, and he's like, what? No, this is a path to the dark. Like, he stops the fight because Luke Skywalker would not let his son fall to the dark side, because he does, like, that's who he is.
Yeah, it's weird, and I know we've kind of gone off on yet another.
We
Um,
we were supposed to end
yes,
this an hour ago.
Yeah, we've just been talking, and I hope that this information has been beneficial to anybody who's interested in writing. We plan on doing more of these.
Yes.
I'll be honest, though, sporadically, probably not, organized release structure, but as we find time, we like having a more informal chance to just kind of talk about these things with each other and with the audience, and hopefully someone will find the rants and tangents a little bit informational. Definitely appreciate interacting with chat this evening. Nice to have you guys part of it. Feel free to reach out, join the Discord.
Yes, link in the description as always, along with all of our social medias, even though I think I'm the only one that uses them.
You're the only one on Twitter. I'm on the Facebooks. I don't do the Twitters.
Because you're a 50-year-old man. You're like, I'm gonna use
No,
Facebook.
he's
fetus.
wise.
Jesus.
What's next is when we find out that Ninja set up the Y.A.R.P MySpace.
Oh yes. Hey, fuck you! MySpace was awesome, dude. You could have music.
Well,
Facebook wishes it could be fucking MySpace.
No, don't you understand? It's meta now.
Oh my god. I am not fucking calling it that. When I open up the app, it still says fucking Facebook. Okay.
Thank God. If it actually said meta, if the icon changed to that M and that infinity sign, and then it just say meta, I'd be like, who installed this strange app on my phone?
What the fuck is this? Why is this on my phone?
No, this is when we all need to become Instagram famous. Oh God.
Oh, yeah, let me just get right on that. I'll sell my bell.
Instagram.
If Belle Delphine can make $2,000.
Oh,
ladies,
God.
I'm here for you.
This is when Ninja sets up his OnlyFans. It's you doing that.
I mean, hey, if it helps me every day, like if I can stay at home, my writing and do this shit full time, fuck it. I got no shame.
I was about to make the joke of it's you doing that. What's that jutsu called in Naruto when he turns into a woman?
Oh, the sexy jutsu?
Yeah, it's
also known as the harem. Multiple shadow clones.
It's you just doing that, but your face is still normal. You're wearing the normal mask and everything.
Yes, we'll have to find like a screenshot of him doing the sex jutsu and just like throw my face over all of them. Presented with no context as always.
People give you like $50 per picture. You become like a millionaire overnight.
I mean, hey, I get it. It's hard for guys. It is for girls, but I mean, there are women out there who are, they want some content. They deserve some stuff too. So you let me know, ladies, if you want me to seriously consider that, and I've got no shame.
Oh, we're good.
We're good. You know what I'm saying? You don't speak for the audience.
I was gonna say that was me. You just insulted my friend.
The next time Wyatt's laying in, I'm like, yeah, no, get her, Wyatt, yeah.
You just insulted my friend. I'm not gonna take that laying down. Ninja is beautiful, okay? His OnlyFans is making lots of money.
I'm sure it is.
Oh yes. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's hard work no matter how you slice it, okay?
I think my only problem with Belle Delphine is at the end of the day she still looks like a child. I know she's legal, but I think it's the braces. I still think it's like, oh, you're like 16. I'm not gonna look at you. You're just a black bar.
I mean, say what you want, but her bills are paid.
They are paid. It's just good luck to whatever child she may birth in the future.
I mean, you say that, but I mean, I'm sure her kids are going to be pretty well off. Like, she ain't hurting for money, you know what I mean?
Oh no, financially they'll be fine. It's more the idea of like, how will you grow up being the child of Belle Delphine, one of the first like thoughts that actually like.
Well, I mean, how would you be born to a celebrity and have to wrestle with that sort of mental deal, or just take your chances being born into a random fucking family.
Right.
Because I mean, people still struggle being born to random. You know, we all have mental issues and baggage and trauma and emotional abuse and all kinds of shit. It's like, so if we're gonna have that anyway, I'd rather have that. You know what I mean?
That's true. My go-to examples have always been like, oh yeah, like Tom Hanks' son is gone. Is People don't even know he exists, so he's probably doing all right.
No, he's doing just fine. He's got a good career going.
I don't even know his name.
Colin.
Mr. Hanks.